Respected Governor of Nepal Rashtra Bank, CA Mahaprasad Adhikari, President of IFAC, Professor Dr. Inkiju, President of SAFA, President of CA England and Wales, President of CA ANZ, President ICAI, Vice President ICAB, Executive Director CAPA, expert from CPA Australia, Sri Lanka, and all the participants. Good afternoon, namaste, and warm welcome in this program. These days, we are in very uncomfortable position due to the pandemic of COVID-19. These days, we all are in very uncomfortable position due to the pandemic of COVID-19, and we are in continuous lockdown for more than 2-month period. Despite this, today we feel proud, we feel honored and delighted to host this global webinar on the topic, role of professional accountant in business continuity, crisis management, and financial reporting post-COVID-19 pandemic. We know that the virus outbreak is one of the biggest threats to the global economy and the financial market. Companies in the hospitality industries, travel, trade, micro, and SMEs are among the hardest hit in this pandemic. Many businesses have been forced to reduce operations or shut down, and an increasing number of people are expected to lose their jobs. We can say that the pandemic may have multiple fold impact in our economy. The pandemic also affects our profession too. The professionals involved in the audit and assurance service face difficulties in implementing the various standards while discharging their duties, and many of the professionals involved in advisory services may lose their revenue during this situation. However, our accounting professional can play a crucial role in survival and revival process of the economy. I think this is the right time to discuss about the role of accounting profession in a survival and revival process of our economy. The role of accountant will be very important in the country like Nepal, where most of the entities are under micro and SME categories. This type of the entities have limited ability to maintain adequate liquidity, to hold their employees for a longer period, to negotiate with the financial institutions and other stakeholders like creditors and employees, to get government relief package, and to utilize those limited relief package in an effective manner. I believe professional accountant can provide all support to the micro and SME during their survival and revival process. The main objective of today's program is to discuss the role of professional accountant in survival and revival process of the economy, and the role of IFAC and professional accounting bodies in issuance of various guidelines in current scenario. Today, we have eminent personalities across the globe to present the initiative taken by IFAC and other professional accounting bodies, and to express their views on the role of professional accountant during and post-pandemic period. I believe today's discussion will be very fruitful to all member bodies of IFAC and all accounting professionals globally. Thank you very much. And with this, I want to just introduce, I've been open our discussion, formal discussion. And first of all, I would like to invite our Honorable President of IFAC, Professor Dr. Inkiju, to deliver his speech. That is initiative taken by IFAC in current scenario. It's Professor Inkiju.
Thank you, President Krishna Prasad Akaria, and ICAN leadership, and distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Inkiju, as introduced by President ICAN. I'm the president of IFAC, the International Federation of Accountants. I'm proud to represent all of IFAC's members and the work we do in a global context. IFAC is comprised of over 175 members and associates in more than 130 countries and jurisdictions, representing almost 3 million accountants in public practice, education, government service, industry, and commerce. It is my privilege and honor to speak with you today here. Just a few months ago, we didn't expect the coronavirus would develop into the pandemic that it has become today. But now it is afflicting almost every country throughout the world. It is continuing to cause unprecedented challenges to our society in terms of public health, economic stability, and the politics and the culture. It also now causes critical challenges to our profession. I hope and I'm sure that the world will cope with these challenges wisely and quickly through worldwide collaboration. I would like to thank you for inviting me to this ICAN Global webinar. With the help of digital technology, I am participating from afar in my home in Seoul. It is great to connect with fellow professionals, but I am also missing the personal interaction with our audience and the warm, kind people in Kathmandu and the Himalayan atmosphere. As we talk about global challenges and smart solutions, your thoughtful and proactive response to this crisis is a testament to your vision and leadership. People of Nepal have shown remarkable resilience through many crises before this one. The memory of the earthquake of 2015 has not faded, and neither has your spirit in persevering. ICAN also deserves recognition for its work in the past few years to boost public sector reforms alongside CIFA and for its participation in IFAC member compliance program and good standing as a member of IFAC family. I'd like to congratulate you also for this outstanding conference. We know that COVID-19 is turning the world upside down, but as a profession, we can and must work to provide essential services we need to bring to the global economy and the civil society. This event, with the impressive lineup with speakers you have invited from around the world, is exactly the kind of engagement the profession needs right now. This crisis is worldwide. We are all facing the same problems. We all need solutions. The author of Sapiens, Yuval Noah Harari, predicted that after the storm passes, we will inhabit a different world. We may not be sure what kind of world we are going to face, but this different world will include more digital communications rather than in-person contacts, more environmental and public health protection. On the other hand, the current business environment is being severely disrupted. As a result of lockdowns everywhere, closed borders are disrupting business, and locally and internationally, we have found that global economic cooperation is easily disrupted by the closed factories in affected regions. This phenomenon has caused supply chain problems for global production lines from platform companies to local suppliers. Due to the severe lack of business transactions, cash shortage and dramatic decreases in profit await almost every businesses. COVID-19 pandemic has affected small businesses disproportionately. Most companies, especially small and medium-sized entities, do not have enough cash to endure the several months during which sales has fallen off dramatically, and they will continue to struggle for the foreseeable future. These businesses will soon face extreme liquidity problems with the distinct possibility of them becoming bankrupt if they have not already. Most organizations worldwide are small in size, but the importance of small businesses to the global economy is indisputable. Governments, societies, businesses, professionals, and every sector of society are making their best endeavors to stall this appalling chain reaction and restore the economy back to the normal. Our profession, of course, should do its best to contribute to this endeavor. IFAC published a small business continuity checklist, how to survive and thrive post-COVID-19, around 10 days ago on May 11th. The checklist covers key financial management tasks and the strategic management tasks. The financial management tasks address cash flow management, reducing short-term obligations whilst keeping an eye on longer-term obligations. Strategic management tasks focus on communication and accelerating digitalization and transforming small businesses responding to drastic consumer behavior shifts. Our profession must join the effort in strengthening the ability of small businesses to survive the current unsettled environment and to move on to the thrive in the future. It is also noted that in the United States, the SEC released a public statement regarding the importance of disclosures related to COVID-19, particularly forward-looking disclosures, to provide investors and the market with the information necessary to make informed decisions. Integrated reporting can be an important and efficient tool to communicate entities' strategies for the future to key stakeholders. But it has become an even bigger challenge to prepare an integrated reporting under the current disruptive circumstances. This task is becoming more urgent as the next phase of the COVID-19 response is coming into focus. Many countries that locked down are starting to open back up, but this is happening amid great uncertainty. A successful reopening and recovery is not guaranteed. Every organization needs a complete and realistic view of their current and projected circumstances to handle whatever is to come, and as do all stakeholders. This will inform sound financial decisions and guide countries as they look to reopen their economies. Our profession has a key role to play to deliver this information. I'd like to offer us a few thoughts on how to handle what we have already seen and how to prepare for challenges on the horizon. We are facing some challenges in audit as well. We can see many things coming to our profession. For organizations facing deadlines for reporting, for example, the loss of time and the restrictions of physical distance will affect the ability of auditors, preparers, and issuers to do their jobs and report their findings promptly. Our list of challenges is formidable and the uncertainty around them is significant. What if audit evidence available during this crisis is simply too little or too weak to inform an audit opinion in time for legal deadlines? How will professional accountants meet their continuing professional development requirements? What should we do to promote the well-being of individual professional accountants? These are just a few of many enormous questions we must answer. The many insights of contributors to our discussion today will help the accountancy profession learn, focus, and adapt. But we should not expect to solve all of our problems today. we will have to live with uncertainty about this virus, maybe for a long time. We are used to the idea that change is coming. The urgency and scale of COVID-19 crisis is exceptional, but for professional accountants, the necessity of growth and adaptation is not. Fundamentally, our goals have not changed. Financial statement is still a financial statement, and audit is still an audit. However, many of the ways we achieve them will change. The imperative for all of us is creativity and flexibility. Using digital tools is a good place to start. Inventory observation, for example, cannot proceed in person when lockdown orders keep auditors from visiting their clients. But some auditors might be able to video conference into their clients' facilities to check inventory remotely. Of course, the example I have just raised is quite narrow compared to the broader issues we must consider. There might be dead ends, things we find we cannot do right now, and that must be postponed. These will be important issues to define and raise with clients and with regulators as soon as possible, as they will substantially affect audit opinions. IFAC is working with the firms, member organizations, and all others in the IFAC network to address these points. This effort will be easier if we are all in it together, which brings me to my next point. We must learn from each other. Many organizations are publishing material about reporting and assurance services during the COVID-19 crisis. We have compiled much of it on the IFAC's dedicated COVID-19 resources page. We have found thought guidance from all over our network, including many content hubs hosted by member organizations with outstanding breadth and depth of information. Along with publishing a small business entity continuity checklist, we recently updated our site to include online CPD opportunities shared by our member organizations that are being made available to each other. The World Bank and some large firms have cited this IFAC initiative as a valuable platform. The material we have curated is a true testament of the profession coming together for the common good and in the public interest. I encourage everyone to visit our page and explore what the accountancy profession is seeing and saying during this crisis. IFAC is working to facilitate the exchange of ideas. Thank you for being partners in that exchange. ICAN has led by example. You have shifted quickly to keep serving students and members with an impressive number of online trainings and classes. I was particularly excited to see that you held the training for financing reporting for SMEs earlier this month. This digital transition will be crucial for all payers in the immediate future. We must learn from each other and collaborate to cope with this unprecedented situation and lead all effort to ensure a better future. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to emphasize two things. Digitalization in our daily life will proceed at much faster speed. The world will become even closer and more collaborative rather than separated and more isolated through our collaborative efforts to learn from each other in coping with the coronavirus across the world. IFAC, as the global accountancy profession, is in the best position to facilitate this collaboration across the world. COVID-19 resources page is a good example. No one knows when the digital health emergency will subside. But in the meantime, as a professional accountant, we must carry on and keep sight of our goals. Our work in the public interest is more important now than ever. It has been a great pleasure to join your conference today, and I'd like to wish you all well. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Nkeju, for your insightful speech about the IFAC initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Jayu Mustafa, President of SAFA, to present crisis management by professional accountant arising from COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Mustafa, President of SAFA.
Thank you. Respected Krishna Prasad, President, Institute of Chartered Accountants, Nepal, and respected Professor Dr. Nkeju, President of International Federation of Accountants, and other learned speakers from different institutes around the globe. First of all, I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because I think we are connected with different time zones. So this is an opportunity for all of us to hear, to listen the views of each other. And I must appreciate the Institute of Chartered Accountants Nepal for organizing this global webinar, which is on a very important topic of role of professional accountants in the present COVID-19 situation, especially in relation to the business community, crisis management, and financial reporting. So you did a good job. And likewise, I appreciate that on the platform of SAFA, the SAFA organizations, the member bodies of SAFA are very actively addressing this COVID issue and equipping their members with the knowledge sharing so that we can come out of this situation in a beneficial manner. So I must appreciate ICAN Nepal for arranging relevant and learned panel of speakers for today's global webinar from international accounting bodies, which includes CAPA, ICAW UK, CP Australia, CAANZ, ICA India, and ICA Bangladesh. So we are, representing right now SAFA, and if we look towards the SAFA, right now we have 8 countries in the SAFA region, which includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan. Up to the latest figures, which reported till May 14, the total cases, confirmed cases of corona is 141,000, and the confirmed deaths are 3,786. So if we compare it with the rest of the world, South Asia are lucky enough that the impact of coronavirus is not at that scale as United States are facing and the other European countries are facing. So in this context, there is some better situation as compared to other countries. So now we have to talk about the professional accountants, how the professional accountants go for this crisis management. Crisis management has become a top priority for global organization in this wake of widespread COVID-19 and its negative and pervasive impact on the business economies. So the professional accounting organizations PO have an opportunity and the responsibility to help their members in timely manners in this time of emergencies. The professional accountants, I believe, need to assess the impact of COVID on every aspect of the business and organization, especially in context of business continuity, financial reporting, risk and future planning, and suggest remedial measures on how to meet the emerging realities. So this is how we have to, go for it. if we talk about the crisis management, regarding crisis management, you must have first of all, a plan. You must design a crisis management plan for your organization, which may ensure that it continue operating. Achieve its public interest mission. Plan must include all such things, how to mitigate the business impact of the crisis. In developing the plan, the safety of individual, I believe the safety of individual must be on the top priority. So in crisis management, first of all, there should be a comprehensive plan which we have to design. And then the plan should, how we will execute the plans to work virtually. The professional accountant must also guide the organizations and help them by executing plans to work virtually in the present time of COVID. This would definitely become the new normal, so the professional accountants needs to play a role in this regard. So this is how I believe we have to go for it. And then a communication strategy. When we are talking about the crisis management, there should be a communication strategy design. The professional accountant should design a communication strategy to communicate with stakeholders in the organization to make them believe that the fear and apprehension during this time are normal, while also ensure that everyone has a clear sense of goals and priorities. Communication to firm might focus on changes in tax filing dates or any other legislative and regulatory changes that may impact them. So plan and the execution of plan virtually, and then communication strategy we must have. And then I believe in crisis management, we have to equip the members with different resources. POs should target the needs of different sectors of their membership, large and small firms, accountants in business, educators, students, public sector accountants. Member of POs need to be equipped to support their clients who might also be affected by the crisis. Many large firms have already produced great material that could be shared. Also, various e-learning tools are available that can assist members. IFAC and the resource of IFAC page is a very useful resource for all the professional accountants and POs. So then in crisis management, we should also focus on the contingencies planning for various scenarios. I believe that every PO must consider its strategic priorities in new environment. What is the need to focus on and what may need to be postponed. It must then consider based on the crisis and business priorities, what the short and long-term impacts are on the revenues, expenditures, and cash flows. While some expenditure can be cut, a PO must consider investing in new ways to support members, such as the development on online programs, as Dr. Inkiju said, and POs should also update their risk management plan. So we must have a contingencies planning in this scenario. And the sixth point which I would like to share, that is the reach out. POs should consider reaching out to key stakeholders, which can include the government and the donor agencies, international and national organizations, regulator, financial institutions, etc. So connecting other stakeholders present an opportunity to share information and to consider if there are opportunities to collaborate on initiatives. If we look in some countries, government are forming national crisis management stakeholder groups. Where possible, POs should consider joining such group to offer perspective and support from the accountancy profession. So my seventh point is we have to update our crisis management plan on a regular basis. On some periodic basis, we have to update this crisis management according to the situation. I have 10 points, and this is my 8th point, that is protect cash. In crisis management, cash preservation is critical to enabling organization to survive in present times. Alongside the protection of people, the top priorities for finance professionals during this time should be to minimize spending, hold off capital expenditure, freeze hand counts, and secure credits if it is needed. And then the 9th one is we have to reprioritize. It is important for finance that finance acts as a business partner to the organization. This entails working with the departments such as operations and marketing to reinforce the organization strategy and its marketing plans. Once finance understands how strategy has been affected by the crisis, it can help the rest of business to ensure that money is spent in the right areas. It can also undertake financial modeling to support top line growth. So one more point is that is plan for different scenarios. If we, according to them, the light of, this is a very uncertain situation. Finance professionals should plan for best case and worst case scenarios with regard to customer demands and sales, as well as the supply of raw material. So this is how we have to be a plan for a different scenarios. And one last thing is that we must have to wear a commercial hat. When confronting the COVID crisis, financial professionals should take a broad commercial perspective and not focus solely on cost cutting. This means that we have to help to identify the areas such as changing consumer behavior or suggesting new products or services that can enable the organization to develop, innovate, digital-based revenue stream. So these are the areas where we have to be, we have to look into for the crisis management. And a few things which we have in initiative as the President SAFA, I would like to share that in SAFA, normally all the organizations have, developed their resource pages and share their working about the audit and assurance requirement and about the accounting treatment of various accounting transactions. So how to prepare the challenges for the financial statements, which includes the challenges for auditors in audit and assurance functions. And we have to, in SAFA, if we look, we have a large number of SMEs. So SMEs are trusted business advisor for, SME sector. Currently, crisis has significant impact on SMEs. So the SAFA bodies are regularly conducting webinars to update their members, which is a good thing. And retaining and attracting clients. This is how the SAFA member bodies are guiding their members by keeping them well updated through webinars and assisting their clients to manage its operation effectively using this technology. So these are the few things which as in a business and as a professional accounting organizations, we have to address in this crisis management situation. And one last thing which I would like to share as a President ICMA Pakistan, that we have what step we have taken. We have given discounts to the students, which is about 25% in their fees, and then we are organizing classes on a online mode, and so that there should be no impact on their time. So likewise, for members, there are free webinars, and we have lastly organized a global CFO conference in which Dr. Inkiju also graced that occasion, and we are thankful to the Dr. Inkiju for this time. And again, I am thankful that you have spared time for the ICAN event, and SAFA is also supporting this ICAN event. I must appreciate in the end to Krishna Prasad for organizing this event in a very successful manner. And I believe we have a very learned speaker which will definitely address the other aspects of the COVID-19 on the businesses and on the accountancy profession. So thank you, Krishna, for organizing such a wonderful session. And we are also thankful Dr. Inkiju and all the president, vice presidents, and representative of different CEOs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President SAFA, Mr. Mustafa, for giving insightful presentations regarding a crisis management by professional accountant arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think the context of accounting practices and the business environment in South Asia is almost similar. So in SAFA level, if we can develop guidelines for practicing member, even a non-practicing member, for advisory services for SMEs and micro entities, for our SAFA region, that could be very beneficial to our members, I think. Thank you very much, Asafa President, for your presentation. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Foina Willickson, President of Institute of Chartered Accountant, England and Wales, to present UK perspective on COVID-19, supporting member and building something better. Yes, Mr. Foina.
Thank you very much, Krishna. Namaste and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fiona Wilkinson, and I am the president of the ICAW, which is the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. First, I just want to say that I hope you and your families, friends and colleagues are keeping well during this very difficult time. And I would also like to thank ICAN for putting this webinar together. It is a pleasure to be speaking to you all, and I'm sure that today we are all gaining some very useful insights. At the ICAW, we have over 180,000 members and students around the world across 148 countries. Most, if not all of them, have been affected by the COVID-19 crisis, personally, professionally, or both. And I'm sure that this also applies to members of the other institutes represented here today. We are all very aware that as much as this is a health crisis, it is also an economic crisis, the likes of which none of us have ever seen before. By default, this means that the accountancy profession has a critical role to play. At a time of such turmoil and fragility, the knowledge, skills and expertise that we bring to businesses and thus to the wider economy are more important than ever and will shape how the global economy emerges and recovers. Just as important is our ethical approach and the integrity with which we undertake our work. Under the current pressures, we must all take particular care in our conduct and our judgment. At the ICAW, we maintain a code of ethics to which all of our members must adhere, and we are supporting them with guidance on compliance and professional conduct. Like elsewhere, the accountancy profession in the UK has been jolted by this pandemic. Here, the government has introduced unprecedented measures to support business, employers and employees, and our members are helping to implement these schemes, ensuring businesses and individuals receive the help they need and that public money is being used where it is intended with efficiency and transparency. In the UK, our members advise more than 3 million businesses. This means that not only do they lie at the heart of the UK economy, but that our institute is comprehensively plugged into what is happening on the ground in the real economy. We are encouraging our members to provide us with their experiences, insights and questions so that we know what is and what is not working. This helps us to shape our own guidance and resources and to inform and influence the policy coming out of government. We are engaged with government ministers, regulators and banks, using our members' feedback and our own in-house expertise to ensure that businesses' concerns are being raised and that gaps and shortcomings in government support are addressed. Our online coronavirus hub collates all of our resources from around the world, not just for our members, but for the whole profession at this time of hardship, and has had over 4 million hits to date. This hub includes practical business advice, analysis of government schemes, and guidance for employers, directors, and businesses of all sizes and sectors. Our on-demand webinars are examining topics such as personal finance, charities, and fraud. And as a recognised qualifying body, we are continuing to support our more than 30,000 students to limit the disruption to their studies and examinations. Unfortunately, the harsh realities of this crisis are already becoming clear as global economies shrink and unemployment rises. But we must also look ahead to what the legacy of all this will be and how we as a profession can learn from it and build something better on the other side. Many people have compared the economic damage of this crisis to that of the financial crash of 2007. We now know that it will in fact be worse. Our Chancellor of the Exchequer has confirmed that the UK is already in recession. In the wake of the 2007 financial crisis, we at the ICAW held a series of high-level roundtables across the world to examine what the legacy would be. Unfortunately, it is not a good one. The finance profession did not emerge well, and that crisis helped to undermine belief in global institutions and the social order. More than a decade on, the COVID-19 crisis has exposed new vulnerabilities in economies and societies that will equally require lessons to be learned and solutions found. The accountancy profession must become part of these solutions. We create trusted information and insight, which helps inform understanding of the world and the resulting decisions which shape our lives. We identify risk and uncertainty as well as opportunity. As a profession of problem solvers, we must learn from how the world is responding to the virus, build on these responses and integrate them into business strategies, making economies stronger and more resilient, and doing so in ways that are sustainable. Much has been made of the environmental benefits that lockdown has brought with it, and calls are growing for these to be maintained when economic activity resumes. Strong economies are rooted in behaviour that is ethical, responsible and sustainable. As finance leaders, we must rebuild our global economy around these principles and shape the legacy of COVID-19 in a way that can benefit us all, inclusive growth that works for everyone. So we must not underestimate the role of the accountancy profession during these extraordinary times, helping to protect businesses, save jobs, and ultimately sustain people's livelihoods. The professional, technical, and ethical standards we apply in fulfilling this crucial role will define our reputation for decades to come. Thank you all for listening, and I hope that you and your families all keep well.
Thank you very much, Fiona Wilkinson, for sharing your thought, especially in UK perspective. Now, I would like to request Mr. Peter Robb, President of CANZ, to deliver his speech about the impact of COVID-19 on accounting profession, Big Four perspective. Mr. Peter.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for inviting me to join this virtual conference. My name's Peter Rupp and I'm President of Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand. It's a wonderful opportunity to share time with fellow accountants from the Asia Pacific region and also to reunite with Fiona in the UK around this virtual table. Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand shares a valued relationship with the Institute of Chartered Accountants and have many joint members who live in Australia and New Zealand and have a long and shared and trusted relationship. And I'd also add that many Nepalese accounting students also study or have studied in Australia and New Zealand. As this webinar has indicated, the COVID-19 is a global pandemic and the challenges it has thrown in our paths are global. We are all in this together and I believe we can learn together. And when I began my presidency at the start of this calendar year, as with many of you, a pandemic was certainly not on my mind. Did you include a global pandemic in your New Year's resolution? It seemed a long time ago since I set out my vision for the year ahead. And at the time, even before COVID, it was quite clear that the profession is in the midst of a remarkable period of change. But change or disruption for our profession is a truism, pandemic or not, and it's something we must keep front of mind as we turn our attention here in Australia and New Zealand to the economic recovery that is now required in the wake of this issue. And there is no more fundamental relationship than that of accountants and businesses. And the futures of all of our economies rest on the advice of our profession. And how well our profession performs depends to a large degree on the support we give our members as member organisations. So we've, at CANZ, had a number of responses to COVID-19, as indeed all of the professional bodies have done in a quite remarkable and swift fashion. We certainly went hard and we went early, which has allowed us to start our recovery phase on a much more solid ground than many other countries, and ahead of many as well. Within my community in Western Australia, we currently only have one active case, and in New Zealand, I think we're down to 0. But the economic cost has still been enormous, and social distancing restrictions put in place have delivered significant hits to the economic activity in our region. The Reserve Bank of Australia expects the Australian GDP to decline around 10% over the first half of this year. And total hours worked are expected to fall by around 20%, with unemployment rate forecast to rise to around 10% in the June quarter. In both countries, businesses, large and small, are closing or downsizing, but economic conditions are expected to improve as this pandemic is brought under control and containment measures are relaxed. But considerable uncertainty remains. So what is our role as professional bodies? The slide suggests a Big Four perspective, but this is much wider. As accountants, we have an important role in business continuity. In the circumstances I've just outlined, many businesses are having to make major changes to how they work, for example, moving online or revamping the mix of products they deliver. Others are bunkering down until they can restart operations, and in some cases, outright closure is the only sensible option. But all options affect accountants, our members, employees, systems, processes, and finances, and clients, and they require sound and ethical decision-making. During the pandemic, a business continuity plan should help businesses function as fully as possible and guide the recovery once lockdown measures are lifted. And there are various methodologies to get the important end result, which is a survival plan for your business and your clients' businesses, and to secure the livelihoods of employees and those who depend on them. So guiding businesses through this pandemic is the main priority, and leaders need to identify also the opportunities a crisis presents. We need to look out for opportunities to accelerate new ways of working, alter our priorities, and deliver a long-term vision. In New Zealand, an audit firm which had been thinking about going paperless for about a year, it was constantly bumping that down the list of priorities. But when the country went into lockdown, the firm migrated their businesses from paper-based audit files to digital in less than a week. Now, of course, I do understand that's not an option for many employees and audit firms, and I've seen one of the questions on the Zoom meeting is asking about that. But there are many more examples. We produced a very popular and highly regarded business continuity playbook for our members. And in a blueprint for leaders, the playbook identifies the 3 stages that we're going through. Firstly, the adjustment to change, which many are already well into, if not through, where people feel overwhelmed, uncertain, anxious, and emotional, with little capacity to consider anything other than the basic work functions and spending time adjusting to the situation. And now we have this period which we've called business unusual, where clear communications and systems are now in place and people are beginning to settle into this stable, albeit unusual routine. And they want to take their focus off the pandemic and concentrate on other aspects of their lives, including work, but not just work, hobbies and helping their communities. And we're all looking forward to the final phase, which is the recovery and resilience, which is the one with the biggest question mark at the moment. Behaviours and expectations change towards acceptance of this new normal. People become more optimistic and engaged, and confidence begins to return with more certainty for the future. So in all of this, the fundamental principles in the Code of Ethics, which is a point that Fiona Wilkinson made very well earlier on, should certainly be our reference point as chartered accountants and accountants within the profession. And now more than ever, continuing to apply these principles during this time of crisis will ensure that we retain the trust and respect of our clients and our communities. So now is the time to be a trusted advisor to our clients, having a clear communication strategy to connect, hold video conferences such as this, and adapt in a phased approach to help those clients meet this need in as quick and efficient as way as possible. So deal with the urgent issues first, such as having to lay off staff and redundancies and applying for government support, but developing action plans to enable us, our profession and our clients and our members to get through to the recovery as soon as possible. I will turn briefly to audit, which as an audit partner in a Big Four, I feel is an area I feel qualified to talk to, and the impact of that on our audit approach. So reporting and auditing are certainly vital for sound financial management, and I'd argue that that's now more important than ever right now. Auditing is in the spotlight of global regulators and governments, with a number of high-profile reviews being performed, including in Australia, a Senate inquiry which was completed earlier this year. But the impact of the pandemic, which has sort of superseded this insight, has really impacted audit in two key ways. Firstly, the logistics of how we deliver those audits and the technical issues that they have been introduced into the process. As far as logistics are concerned, the delivery of a virtual audit has in many cases been relatively straightforward in our organisation. Technology and online audit tools have been readily adapted and face-to-face meetings converted to phone calls and video conferences. The main logistical challenges where our profession has been called into support is where we've encountered clients whose own setup does not easily convert to working away from the office, primarily their ability to access online reports and data from financial systems remotely. And that's aside from the security risk and the other risks related to cyber fraud, which are inherent in this transition. But no challenge seems to be insurmountable for our profession, who's working as hard as ever to meet the needs of our communities. In terms of the technical issues, these have all arisen from the significant and sudden impact on the company's cash flow and ability to obtain funding, although government support and stimulus packages around the world have been helping. And of course, some of the clients have seen a significant pickup in business, in particular those with online trading activity or in food supply and logistics. But the inevitable consequence of this has then flowed on to the audit risks associated with cash flow, whether it's going concern assessments or impairment reviews. But accountants, as I say, are rising to the challenge and providing support where we can. So what is our professional body doing in Australia and New Zealand? Well, as I mentioned, I believe accounting member organisations have a critical role in supporting accountants as they play in helping businesses to survive and recover. As one Australian radio presenter said recently, the accountant is the superhero of our age. Accountants continue to have a significant impact and make a difference within communities, businesses, and the wider economy. So Chartered Accountants, Australia and New Zealand, our catch cry for members is, we're with you every step of the way. We know that now, more than ever, it's important for our members to be equipped with the relevant information they need as they navigate every stage to the recovery ahead. And the key to success is to create a collaborative working group from across the organisation to collate, organise and prioritise useful content and resources for our members. So early on, this working group within our organisation established an operating framework to apply cohesion to the content provided for members and to coordinate activity across the organisation to maximise member benefit. We identified 3 phases requiring different member support, which broadly aligned to the business continuity playbook I referred to earlier. So peak uncertainty, stabilised abnormality, and bouncing back. Government announcements and other urgent content is fast-tracked for publication on our website in a dedicated COVID-19 hub. which is regularly updated to ensure our members are equipped to navigate the serious long-term economic and business impacts from this pandemic. So information includes the latest updates on available government packages, guides to your practice or business, and support to maintain the mental health and well-being of your members and their clients. To generate and coordinate other content on the Hub, we implemented a framework to capture ideas and initiatives and activity from across our wider organisation. And based on these ideas, our group meets twice a week to prioritise content and identify gaps and eliminate duplication of effort. And of course, as a result of this, we're starting to see opportunity to help our members and our fellow professional bodies survive through this and actually enhance the way we work together in the future. So our current focus is on providing content for members through this stabilised abnormality that we're living in. So examples might include cash flow forecasting and budgeting. So what about the recovery? The recovery from COVID-19 is expected to take years, not months. And the pandemic has created an opportunity for innovation and change in everything from social and economic policy to the way organisations are managed and how business is carried out across the world. Successful organisations will be those that build their future in such a way that embeds the idea of rapid change and flexibility. And heading into the recovery after COVID-19 is an opportunity for business to lead with kindness and compassion. People want to know what employers are doing to protect employees, customers, clients, suppliers, their community and the planet. So during the crisis and into recovery, I'd argue employers who are becoming more intuitive, those that show more sensitivity and compassion, and those who communicate well with their employees, value chains and the wider community will have more opportunities than those just focused on financial return. These businesses need to forge alliances with competitors, civil society and government bodies, and the professional bodies need to work close together so that in the recovery and beyond we can work towards a more equitable and sustainable society. And as I say, the impact will likely accelerate in innovation and agile firms will create new opportunities. So in conclusion, we're only a few steps along the long road ahead. The role of the accountant has never been more vital to help bridge to a recovery. The profession plays a critical role guiding and providing essential information to organisations, whether you're a finance professional or a trusted advisor to small business. As I mentioned, my passion for this profession is driving everything that I do as president of CANZ in 2020. And we must continue to support all of our profession, but particularly, in my view, the younger generation who are coming through. And they're the ones driving digital transformation, reverse mentoring, and teaching and learning from each other. We're advocating for members to build trust in the profession and want to hear about their contribution to community, ethical leadership and public good. And finally, I reinforce the bedrock of our profession is the strength in governance, trust and ethics. These will see us through this crisis as a profession, and I'm absolutely confident that we'll emerge stronger. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter, President of CANZ, for sharing your Australian perspective, especially Big Four perspective, impact of COVID-19. Now, I would like to invite President of ICAI, CA Atul Kumar Gupta, to present the role of accounting professional in stabilizing economy post-COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Atul.
Thank you, the President ICAN, Krishna Prasad Acharya ji, Honorable Professor Dr. Inkiju, the President IFAC, and all the respected President of various institutes and the representative of various regional and the professional bodies. At the outset, I'm thankful to the President ICAN for giving all of us this opportunity to interact through this platform, and also convey my wishes and the pray to the Almighty for all the safe and healthy for yourself and all the family members, colleagues, team at the respective locations. Friends, all of you will agree that the professionals, because we believe we deal with the economies, we deal with the commercial activities, it is always that we have to reskill ourselves, whether it is the new way of doing business by the entrepreneurs, it is the situation like this pandemic kind of a situation is there, it is the adoption of the technology, that is we used to call the digital disruption, the ABCD of technology, the artificial intelligence, blockchain, and so on, and even the other cases. So it is like a time when there is a pandemic situation and everything is locked down. There is a overall slowdown. The industry is suffering. So my first take will be that we need to go to the basics, that we have to always reskill ourselves to face these kind of challenges. So I will be sharing you my few slides to share you the thought process which we have in ICAI and how we are handling this kind of a situation. So let me take only a minute time, less than a few seconds, to take you on my presentation. Because everybody is aware about the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, so I will not be discussing this aspect, that we have the vast network of more than 164 branches, 34 overseas chapters, and all these there to see that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is serving to the nook and corner of the country. Now, when we are talking about the institute and how we can, the accountants can provide the sustainability, the first and most important aspect is that we have to always introspect, and I always admire the paper prepared by the IFAC, that is the Future Ready POs, which talks about everything. So it is not about that we are talking about the professionals, that how the professional accounting bodies will survive or how they will grow or the accountants will grow. But it is that when the accountants, when the chartered accountants, the professionals are reskilling themselves, they are growing, they will automatically support the economies, they will automatically support the business. So I used to say the word that we have to move from ASP to BSP. So what it means by ASP, that is the assurance service provider, to the business solution provider. So we need to reskill ourselves. We need to see that how the POs are working, how they are equipping their members, how they are contributing in the success of the members, how they are developing the capabilities of the member, and automatically they will be able to serve the society in a more better way. Now, when we are talking about the key issues which are there, maybe in the present, in the future, that there is an impact of the COVID-19 on the reporting and assurance. So this is the first challenge. And you are aware that, as rightly mentioned by Dr. Inkiju, that under the guidance of the IFAC, the various professional bodies has developed the various advisories for the professionals, whether it is in relation to the reporting or the assurance, whether it is maybe the challenging on the going concern, the inventories, NPAs, the emphasis of matters, the key audit matters. All the professional bodies has issued the advisories to their chartered accountants that how to deal with the specific situation. There will be the cases when there will be a challenge for the, say for example, for the inventory, when we have a perishable product and the inventory is used, there are the cancellation of order. There will be the challenge in relation to the cash flow. So how to handle that kind of a going concern. All these aspects are there, which I believe that the advisories are being issued, and there is required to give a proper training and the handholding to the professionals to handle these issues, because they have to support the industry. The another aspect, which is again very, very important, is about the adoption and the technology, adoption of technology by the SMPs. As rightly mentioned by Dr. Inkiju, that we have to see that the professionals are adopting the technology to remain relevant in the times to come. We are aware about the ABCDE. Why I'm saying E? Because that carry the word ethics. So it is not the, because of the artificial intelligence and the blockchain, automatically there will be a challenge because of their disruptive in nature. We have to train our member on the C and D, that is cyber security and data analytics, in such a way that they reskill themselves and remain relevant for the society in the times to come. They provide the value-added services to the society. And that's why even at the India, we recently launched our digital company.
I think there is a technical problem in that side. So I think I hope Atul is fixing that. Before moving, in between is fixing his internet problem. I would like to take one questions from our practitioner. That especially they want answer from the IFAC president, Ms. Dr. Inkizu. That is the disclosure of impact of COVID-19 is the key issues and challenges. How do we measure the impact in terms of loss of business, economic activities, and going concern of the entities? IFAC, I think, should issue, or is there any already issued global guidance, especially on COVID-19 impact disclosure on financial statement? Yes, Mr. Inkeju.
Yes, thank you, Krishna, for the question. I think IFAC is not going to issue any audit guidance, reporting guidance directly, but we are coordinating with the IWSB, Audit Assurance Standard Board, and they are addressing these issues to how to report and how to audit this uncertain situation in this uncertain situation. So IFAC is not in the place to issue that the guidance on this, but we will coordinate with IWSB. And as far as I know, they are preparing. They already issued the guidance, and also they are also issuing this following that guidance, on this matter.
So there's another questions for you also. There is another questions also. If there is any revision of IFRS or ISA under consideration, specifically in light of circumstances encountered due to pandemic worldwide, are current IFRS or ISAs well enough to address the impact?
We have to wait until whether that current standards are enough to address all these issues, because we don't know yet the impact of this disruption. And actually, that's I have my personal view, but more informed view will come from the IWSB rather than from the IFAC. Yeah, but we will have some current issues in dealing with this unprecedented situation. In that our gateways, we have some kind of knowledge gatherings from all over our network, that how to deal with there's some issues with it, but specifically we don't have any official guidance on this, how to handle that audit and the reporting. But we have a gathering of information, and we have IFRS and IWSB. They are going to issue that kind of guidance rather than IFAC. Yes.
So thank you, Dr. Inkeju. There is one question for Mr. Peter Robb. Sir Peter Robb, you said about the solution of employment problem. Can you please more elaborate with some vision? Very helpful for all of us. So one of friend asks a question for Mr. Peter Robb. Mr. Peter Robb, please.
I missed the beginning of the question about employment. Could you just please clarify that?
Yeah, I'll read the questions. That's Sir Peter Robb. You said about the solution and employment problem. Can you please more elaborate with some vision? Very helpful for all of us?
Right, yeah, thank you. I've now seen the question. I don't recall specifically talking about the solution of an employment problem, but what I've certainly been experiencing in this environment is the opportunity for new and innovative ways to work. There's all sorts of opportunities in the environment that I work in that audit professionals, particularly whilst in professional services firms, some of the consulting businesses may be falling off as discretionary spend is curtailed. The audit profession itself is being singled out as an opportunity to really help clients survive and thrive throughout the end of this process. So I guess throughout the pandemic to date, I've always maintained a philosophy that you need to remain calm through the crisis and be confident that we will emerge stronger at the end of it. And I think it's in bringing our profession closer to our clients and professional bodies close to each other, it's really providing that opportunity for collaboration and innovation that will create the jobs of the future.
Another one questions that is also for Dr. Inkiju. Is there any possibility to encourage, CPE relaxation during the pandemic period? Because many of the members that's interested because they may comfortable. This is a simple one, but they want.
I think that's each PAO or the institute will decide whether they can change the requirement for CPE, CPD.
Dr. Inkiju, is there possibility of relaxing CPE requirement during this pandemic?
Yeah, I got your question, but we do not issue whether we have to, each PAOs should relaxing some CPD, CPE requirement. We don't give some worldwide kind of directions, but when we do our SMO kind of review, we just check each country's situation, whether they are doing their best endeavor to pursue the CPD, CPEs. We don't have any standardized some kind of guidance on whether that's we should relax that CPE requirement or not. We don't do that. We just go case by case, country by country, for when we review our SMOs. But personal view is that there are many ways to continue to fulfill that requirement. It's not only in-person lectures, but also we have some kind of using the digital device like this Zoom or some video conference or some other ways to fulfill that CPE requirement. I think that can be done by that other method. So mostly, I don't expect that any PAOs are relaxing the requirements. I don't expect, but but each country has a different situation, so we have to go country by country.
Thank you, Inkiju. I think Mr. Atul is joined now. Yes,
yeah,
Mr. Atul, please continue.
I believe that you could see my presentation or not?
Not right now.
No,
you can explain.
Okay, no. I explained. I was giving the presentation for 15 minutes. I was not aware that you are not able to.
Yeah. No, you can brief explain about that. So no problem.
Yeah. So what I was mentioning that when we are talking about the professional bodies vis-a-vis the professionals and the role of professionals in the stabilizing economy, it is very important that we have to see that our members of the professional bodies, are getting equipped themselves, because this is not a kind of a situation. Yes, this is an unprecedented kind of a situation when we have the COVID pandemic and everything is a lockdown, and they have to, out of the box, they have to do the out of the box thinking. But at the otherwise also, just to share with you, that even when the industry is adopting the new way of doing business, they are adopting the disruptive technology. So ultimately, the professionals, because dealing with the economic issues, they have to always reskill themselves to remain relevant and provide the value-added services to the various stakeholders. So I used to say that the professional has to move from a ASP to the BSP. Now, what is this ASP? ASP is a assurance service provider to become a business solution provider. So it is very, very important for all of us to see that in case we are talking about that how we will be providing the sustainability support to the industry, we have to see that our members are getting equipped for that kind of activity or not. Now here, I just wish to share with you the three very, very important model which we used to talk about. The one is about the technical capabilities. Dr. Inkiju rightly mentioned about that the firms the members has to adopt the technology to remain relevant. The earlier honorable past president of the IFAC, Special Grims, mentioned about the ABCD of the technology. Now, it is very, very important that the members, because there will be a challenge, tomorrow there will be a challenge. Today the challenge is about the COVID pandemic. Tomorrow there will be a challenge on the adoption of the technology by the industry. And then again, there will be a challenge for the professional. So we have to see that the members are getting matured in the adoption of the technology. And even just to share with you that we, the day before yesterday, in the presence of the Honorable IFAC, the SMT committee chairperson, Monica and Russell, we launched the digital competency maturity model, just to see that our firms are getting, developing their capacity in that adoption of the technology. The same way, there will be a requirement of a audit quality maturity model, that how our members are reskilling themselves into the audit quality parameters. And the third one is the professional quality maturity model, that once you are becoming, so we have to see, because what the IES is talking about, the international education standards are talking about, that you are developing the future ready professionals. So that is something that every jurisdiction has to adopt, the new skill set which should be there in a professional accountant when he is becoming the professional. Now, when I'm moving from this, that okay, now the one part is that how you are developing because unless and until you will not have the capable members, you will not having the members having the capacity and they are equipped, you will not be able to provide the support to the economy for the stabilization purpose which we are talking about. Now, when we are talking about the stabilizing the economy, I request to all my colleagues that we need to adopt the 9 mantras. So first month, I am just giving the 9 mantra, how we can provide the support to the industry. A very beautiful paper is being developed by the IFAC on the small business continuity checklist. And on the same line, I am just sharing you the 9 points over here. The first one is about that, the adoption of the technology. Now, because being the professionals are comparatively much ahead in the adoption of the technology as compared to the small and medium enterprises, the micro, small and medium enterprises, for the communication and even for the internal management of their offices. So we need to see that our professionals are supporting the SMEs to adopt for the adoption of the technology, so that they can do their activities more efficiently and while keeping the social distancing and doing all these things. The another one is the cost optimization. So what I'm trying to say you that I'm not talking about the reduction in the cost. I'm saying within this with the same level of business operations, you have to see that where there is a chance to plug the cost, how without impacting the quality and the effectiveness. So even in the ICAI, I'm talking about the ICAI, because we are practically also the SMPs or SMEs only. So even I have developed a department in the ICAI that is called cost optimization department, which is looking after the each and every expense, that how I can develop the optimization after a certain period. Same way, our professionals can support the SMEs, that how they can develop this kind of a culture in their organization to reduce their cost while not touching on the quality or the effectiveness. The third one is that because the SMEs are not aware, specifically, for example, the Khadi Gramodyog, the cottage industry, they are not aware about the access to the market. They are aware only about the local markets, local vendors are coming to buy the products from them. So we have our professionals can do that. They can teach, they can guide the SMEs to access the market. Say for example, migration to the e-commerce. Now, for example, I want to supply certain goods to in the UK. Now, what kind of a licensing is required? What kind of a certification is required before sending to the UK or to the South Korea? That is something the professional can guide the SMEs to access the market through the innovative way. The next one is about the loss prevention department. What I'm trying to convey you that when I have the different line of activity. One activity is this. Say for example, I'm dealing with the pharma. The another is the hospitality sector. The third one is the travel. Fourth one is the another sector. So what we can do that we can always give a planning that okay, because there's the perishable nature of the product or the huge inventory, you should not deal in this particular line of action, or you can do ABC analysis that where there is a more loss, so that you can by stopping that activity or by not indulging in that activity where the more loss is futuristic loss is there, you can always have a loss prevention kind of a situation to maintain your sustainability. The next one is the topic which is very close to our heart, and I will request even to IFAC and our colleagues as well that we need to develop a similar paper like we develop on a small business continuity checklist on a zero-based budgeting, because we are the champion of the zero-based budgeting. And even for a medium size industry, we have to tell them that this is the time when you have to adopt the zero-based budgeting. This is a kind of a concept. Maybe we develop some case studies, we develop some kind of illustration so that they can adopt the zero-based budgeting in their organization. The next one is about the ensuring the compliance, because I am aware that there is some kind of a relief is being given for the compliance because all the dates are being extended, but still it is very, very important to see that the professionals are adhering with all the compliance requirements so that there should not be any hit to the industry in the times to come whenever there will be they will be going for a regular kind of a thing. The next one is about the restructuring of the credit exposure. Today, I am bearing 9% rate of interest. I'm bearing the 10% rate of interest. But right, the time is that I don't need the money right now because the operations are not there. There is no demand, there is no supply. So what I can do, I can optimize my portfolio, not only within the same bank, but also I can explore that how I can have the better rate of interest at this point of time. Even I should not be falling in the trap of the central bank guidelines of a standardized product or an substandard product, so that it should not be a case that tomorrow my account will become an NPA and there will be a challenge. So that kind of a support is because the professionals are the expert of these subjects, so they can always support the small and medium enterprises in this direction. And then the eighth one is about the represent, because there are the certain sectors which require more stimulus as compared to the other sector. So what the professionals and the POs can do, that they can develop the sector specific study and provide the government a representation that, okay, this sector required this much of a support or this sector doesn't require that kind of a support. And last but not the least is about the skill set, because we are the champion of the skill set. We are aware that what kind of a skill is required for what kind of activity, specifically in relation to the strategic management, specifically in relation to the accounting activity, specifically in relation to the bookkeeping activity and the budgeting activity. So my request to all my POs and all my colleagues here, that we need to train the government, we need to train the SMEs, we need to train the MSME, that how they can manage all these activities, because ultimately by using the technology, like we offer the digital learning hub, there are a number of other jurisdictions also offer the online CPD activity. So we can offer all these online CPD activity apart from our members, even to the non-members, so that they can use that activity to reskill themselves, to face the challenge by themselves, not only for COVID, but also for the others. The last one, which is not that is out of the mantras, but what we can do, the 10th one is about the shock analysis, because this is the, so somebody was saying that it is the first wave, the second wave may come, but somebody has to see, the professional bodies may do a kind of a sensitivity analysis or shock analysis, that how, what is the impact of this present situation, and in case it will be a repetitive nature, like something will come after 3 months or 4 months or even then in the next winter. So how we have to be ready with that kind of a shock, so that we will be able to absorb that kind of a shock. So these are all my 9 mantras, along with one more final point, but I can share with you, because I have, because of the connectivity issue, I apologize that we could not connect for a few minutes. But thank you very much for giving this opportunity to Krishan Prasad Acharya ji, the chairman, president ICAN, and all the colleagues, and in the august presence of Dr. Inkiju. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, C. Atul Kumar Gupta, President of ICI, for your insightful presentations, especially professional accounting professional, especially SMPs, their role in revival process, their role in for the future ready profession, and for revival process of SMEs especially. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Mr. Sabir Ahmed, Vice President of ICAB, to give a short presentation. Yes, Mr. Sabir.
Thank you, President ICAN, distinguished panelists and audience. I will try to cover how the professional accountants can help SMEs. First of all, if we look at the features of SMEs, the SMEs contribute substantial part in global business. As per World Bank study, there are more than 90% businesses which are classified as SME, although IFAC says more than 95% of the businesses are SMEs. And as per very conservative estimate, more than 50% of the global employment in private sector are supported by SMEs. However, there are no global benchmark to classify what a business will be classified as SMEs. Many jurisdiction has provided some sort of thresholds based on number of staff employed, capital employed, or other type of financial ceilings. Nevertheless, the SME definition is changing. Now a new segment has started, and that got more attention in our South Asian jurisdiction, called micro and small enterprises, MSEs, which are more of a narrower segment of the broader SME definition. Another criteria or statistic about SMEs are primarily their owner finance and informal management style. Traditional role of professional accountants to SMEs were mostly compliance focused. If we look at the nature of services that professional accountants used to provide to SMEs, those were mostly bookkeeping, preparation of statutory financial statements, and assistance with various audit activities. Then preparation of income tax return, indirect tax compliance, corporate secretarial practice, those were the traditional domain of services that SMEs receive from the professional accountants. Impact of COVID-19 on SMEs. Obviously, SMEs were disproportionately affected due to COVID-19 for a number of reasons. And it impacted both their supply side as well as demand side. Being they were mostly customer-facing organization, because of the imposition of government lockdown rules, social distancing rules, they were directly affected. On one hand, their customers couldn't access them. On the other hand, their employees were also not available to support the business. To aggravate the matter, what also adversely affected is the funding situation. Most of the SMEs are quite vulnerable in terms of funding because they use their own funding to support the business with a limited recourse available for external funding. So in a nutshell, those were the key area where SMEs got impacted. Now, how the professional accountants can help SMEs to overcome this distressful situation. Can I share a screen? Is the screen visible there?
Yes.
Okay. So the way I look at the a historical role of a professional accountant and going forward role of professional accountants to support SME is from the historical to forward looking. In other words, I was talking to some SME business of late, and they were saying, look, we don't need now finance manager or finance support people. We need business manager. Please guide us to do business. And that is why I remember a quote, a very famous quote, some sports person, cricket captain, I have forgotten his name, cricket being very popular in South Asia, said that those who are competent not always survive, but those who can adapt mostly survive. So for us, professional accountant, this is also a time to adapt ourselves. Not only competency, but adaptation is required. And from this adaptation point of view, the way I look at where professional accountants can help, first and foremost, we know that across the world, the governments are issuing various type of stimulus packages. Many SMEs being informal, being not too much financial savvy or sophisticated, they may not aware of the whole range of government support packages and the other incentives available to them. Being professional accountants, our foremost duty is to find out the various type of incentives available to them and guide them to find out which one will suit them best. This, I think, the very key activities that we can immediately play to support SMEs. Then obviously we can review their existing business model. Someone, my fellow panelists have already mentioned, like someone is looking after the local market. Now they can expand the horizon, find out about the export market. Similarly, downsize their non-core activities. Many businesses have moved to home delivery or online method, but some are still struggling. So the accountants can help them to find out the right business model. Similarly, supply chain review, because of the disruption in supply chain, finding alternate supply arrangement that we as an accountant can help. On behalf of our client, we can also play a role to negotiate or renegotiate financing terms with the bankers, including asking for moratorium, deferral, reduction in installment size, revisiting the interest rate if the interest rate is fixed. Similarly, we can also talk with the debtors and encourage them for early settlement to minimize the cash flow or cash crunch, even if that required giving some sort of upfront discount. So in a nutshell, the funding area where we accountant can really help our client. This is a very difficult and taxing time as an entrepreneur because of the downsizing of business, restructuring, sometimes very harsh and emotional decision may need to be taken for staff termination or staff retrenchment. In such scenario, the accountant can help to revisit the model, whether instead of outright termination, we can whether help the business to alternate arrangement like leave without pay, reduced working hours, so that the employees remain with the entity. Because once you terminate the employee, lot of business will face problem to reattract those critical role employees. Other area of focus that accountant can help SMEs is perform a realistic assessment of SWOT analysis. Not the flowery picture or not the pessimist picture, but more of a realistic picture where what are the strengths, weaknesses of those businesses are. Naturally, accountants with being very close to the financial numbers, we can definitely help them about the future business strategy, cash flow forecast, budgeting, and all forward planning related activities, including identifying the future capital needs of the business. Applying, because it's a changing situation, we still don't know the full length of how long this COVID-19 related slowdown in business will remain. It will be very difficult to analyze a very authentic cash flow, and that's why we can do multiple types scenario analysis, best case, worst case, expected case scenario. Automation, many of my fellow panelists has said, this is a need of the day now, or the accountant, where although many of us not a core IT professional, but we do have a good understanding of automation and various IT platform. We can support our SME clients to maximize automation and maximize use of IT. It is inevitable that a lot of SME will struggle to finance on their own source. So there could be need for new potential investor, and accountants can definitely help to source new financier, investor, and also suggest the financing mechanism involved. So it would be outright equity financing or outright debt financing, or somewhere in the middle, convertible bond or other compound financial instruments or off balance sheet financing. If such a business transaction happens, we can provide obviously valuation services or other due diligence support to our client. Many SMEs are informal in their operational style, in their activities. So this is a time to assist them formalizing various processes, including some jargons that we used to use previously. No one cared too much about, like business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan. And now all of a sudden, all those became talk of the town. So to prepare them for it is now very easy for us to sell those type of services. Previously, a lot of our clients were quite reluctant that, oh, no, it's fine. We don't need to plan for all eventualities. Now, the unprecedented level of change at such a rapid pace has awakened all of us. So this is a good opportunity to support them in formalizing business process, especially key processes. Last but not the least, many SMEs, especially in our part of the world, we are seeing issue with the succession planning. A lot of the business leave it to the very last moment for succession planning or transition to the next generation. This is a high time for us professional accountants to help SMEs to achieve those succession planning and help them to pass the baton to the next generation in a very good fashion or good order. Considering the time, I try to limit in key points. I hope those were the areas where we, as a professional accountants, can help our SME clients. With those few words, I want to thank everyone for your patient hearing, and wishing you all a safe and sound stay during this difficult time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Savir, for your very insightful presentation, especially about the role of professional accountant in revival of, especially in the in Bangladesh used term MSEs, post COVID-19. Thank you very much. Maybe participant may have certain questions. I'll ask you later on. If you have time, please wait for some time. Before moving to another presentations, I want to take one questions from the participant, that is for Atulji. Atul sir, how the professional accountants in India are enlarging their internal capacity to cope with the challenge of COVID-19 effect on their work style and comply with the relevant pronouncement of ICAN. Yes, Mr. Atul.
Thank you, President. Yeah. Thank you, President. A little longer answer, but I will try to squeeze. There are different challenges. One challenge is about as I mentioned you, about the reskill, remain updated, about the various notification, new amendment in the law. Every day you can see one or the other law getting amended. So what we started with the digital learning hub. So that comprises the e-books, video lectures, and for the CPD purpose, for the learning purpose. And that is made accessible free of charge to the members and students. So practically there are more than 162 research-based publications are there on that particular digital learning hub, along with the video lectures, and that is made available to the members. So anytime, anywhere where access, no challenge, they can update themselves. No CPR, and that offer the unstructured as well as the structured CPR, because there are the exams after the every lecture. There is for certain set of lectures, there are the exams as well. Now coming to the technology side, as you are aware that we recently not only launched the DCMM2, that is digital competency maturity model. That is something to assess how much is that they are digitally capable. But we have started the special programs, and we are in the process of even developing an implementation manual to convert our forms into the virtual forms from remote location, how you will be able to perform. So this is the second initiative in relation to the adoption of the technology, as rightly mentioned by IFAC President Sir, that we have to see the reskilling, we have to see the technology adoption. The third one is that we are now started a new concept called Center for Audit Quality, where we are developing the quality index, that okay, you should have this, say for example SQC1, or even you will say the framework as given by the IAASB, because that gives the various requirement of audit quality. So what we are doing, that we are developing this audit quality maturity model, which will give the various parameters to develop the like a quality index, that will share the quality index, so that every firm should be aspiring to achieve that kind of a index that is being now the fourth point is very, very important, that there are the challenges for all the professional colleagues, that their signatures are being misused by somebody else, or there are like somebody is taking the exposure, credit exposure, by using the signature of a professional accountant. And for that, to safeguard our members and even develop the MIS, we started a new concept called UDIN, that is Unique Document Identification Number. So these are the, I can within the limited time, I'm just sharing you the 4 important measures which we started in the last few months and a year, just to provide the support as you are the question the querist has asked for.
Thank you, Mr. Atul. There is another one supplement questions also. That's how the virtual office of professional can do audit. So do you have any software like that, or what? Some of our members want to know about that, Mr. Atul.
Yes, there is a challenge when we are talking about the virtual offices are doing the audit, but I say for example the physical verification of the inventory cannot be you cannot do virtually. So for that, even either you have to have a geotagging, and then only you can do, but the geotagging will be there only in the larger organization. In the smaller organization, geotagging cannot be there. So there are the certain processes which can be completed electronically on a virtual mode. There are the certain activity which can't be achieved. I just wish to share with you one example, that there is a site called confirmation.com. Now on a very small cost of maybe $25 or something, and even we are entering into the negotiation with them, so that we can provide further discount to our members, and even ICI parked around $5 million US dollar to support our firms, providing all these tools free of charge or on a very low cost. And by having that confirmation.com kind of a utility being used, you can always look forward from the confirmation from your debtors and creditors online. So by using the multiple tools only, so there is no one tool available as you are looking for, our members are looking for. You have to use a combination of multiple tools to provide the audit services and the other services on a virtual mode. You have to yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Atul, for your answer. Now I want to invite Mr. Dr. C.A. Chamara Bandara for his presentation, that is the way for SMEs to evolve and thrive a COVID-19 environment, role of professional accountant. Dr. C.A. Chandra Bandara.
Right, Krishna, thank you so much. I think what I want to say, probably all of them have already said. Maybe I'm going to summarize. But then never mind, of course, let me first thank the Institute of Chartered Accountants Nepal organizing such a wonderful global webinar. And it's a very pleasure and a privilege for me to enjoy. Let me organize my presentation. Give me a second. All right. Hope you can see this. Krishna, you can see.
Yes, Dr. Chamara. I think Dr. Chamara Bandara presentations, there is issues in presentations, I think. So can you just briefly explain about what you want to present in this webinar? Yes, Dr. Bandara.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you see the slide, please?
I think slide may have a problem, you know.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Can you see it now? No?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see it now. Fine, super. Right, great. Right, so that is way forward for SMEs to evolve and thrive. That is from the COVID-19 environment. That is what would be our role. In this particular scenario, that COVID-19, that all we know that is a pandemic, right? This pandemic is a crisis. So what is a crisis that I'm going to here, of course, emphasize? That is the business failure. So all of us accountants, now we should understand, because of this COVID-19 problem, the biggest risk that SME is going to face a business failure. So then how we can stop or protect or save these SMEs is the role of chartered accountant or professional accountants. We know that for us to apply our accounting and other technical stuff, we need to save our business. So that is a priority as accountants at the institute right now in this crisis. So when it comes to this business crisis, right, this is what in simple terms role of professional accountants would be. In this particular case, like medical doctors for the human bodies, we should also be doctors for the corporate bodies, business. In this category, I would like to consider everyone as a corporate doctor. In this particular crisis situation, we should be in the forefront, in the front line, similar to medical professionals. Why it is that? Because we know that because of the COVID-19 problem, there's a biggest risk that the SMEs is going to face, that is a business failure. Therefore, that's what I'm telling you, as professional accountants, chartered accountant, we should be in the forefront, in the front line. And also, we should be resilient. We are the resilient. Who else? Our leadership, our qualification, our experience, thinking abilities, all we have that eligible criteria, qualification to be the resilient. So giving the leadership, direction is another one of the role. having said those two things, it is our prime responsibility to protect these SMEs, save these businesses which are going for dangerous zone, that is called it a business failure. Now, let me talk about this way. What is a business failure? Business failure is not that the business that we are closing down. That is the last or latter part of the business failure process. Business failure is a process, right? Because of COVID-19, let's look at where you are working, or maybe you're consulting, maybe that is your own organization, right? Go through the projections and see, because of COVID-19, whether there is a possibility of making losses. If the losses is making, if that is a short term, doesn't matter. But if that is not a short term, there is a signal alert. That is a critical matter that is to be addressed by us, whether not to continue that losses more than a year. Right? If the loss is continuing, that also the problem is slightly moving away from your control and then going to severe liquidity problem. If it goes to the severe liquidity problem, remember, matter is so serious. When it comes to severe liquidity problem, that hiccups of all matters when it comes to debt recovery or getting money from the personal loans and the bank loan, which has a bigger problem will come. Finally, it goes to the closure of the business, that is a close down other business. Now, in this particular four segment, we can easily understand and analyze where the loss is taking place because of COVID-19. Now, when it comes to business failure, let me touch upon some literature. This is from my previous writings. Now, this business failure, that is not a sudden collapse like a building. It doesn't. Business will collapse spiral. It does not fall at once, but takes spiral steps. Spiral steps. So, it takes spiral steps to the downturn, right? So therefore, when the business is, falling this way, trajectory, right? So easy for us to understand that business is going to fall or fail. So therefore, we can easily recognize, we can easily treat them and not to happen that situation, right? For you to understand, this business failure SMEs can be categorized, or we can recognize 5 general trajectories of business failure, right? So those will fall this way, spiral. So 5 categories of business failure I have recognized here. One is that unsuccessful startups. Second one, dazzle growth companies. Third one, apathetic established companies. Fourth one, ambitious growth companies. Fifth one, companies with excessive internal consumption. So let's move to the first one. This is the first trajectory, unsuccessful startup. This unsuccessful startups it doesn't mean that business has started today or business has been started yesterday. Maybe sometimes back, long ago, business has started, but unsuccessfully. This situation creates inefficient control mechanism and operational inefficiencies. What does it mean? Lack of business planning. Never they have done a planning at all, right? Inadequate control environment or control mechanism. Lack of company policies, which are common when it comes to informalized SME. Plenty of SMEs are falling in this category, right? As a result, the company will face survival issues. If there are companies, so the businesses in that category that you know, we have to take more care. And our remedies for this one should be in first to recognize them, right? Therefore, this category is more vulnerable when it comes to COVID-19 situation, because the impact to business failure is very high by their informalized businesses, right? So that category is there. And the second category, these are dazzle growth companies. When it comes to dazzle growth companies, owners are always over optimistic, right? They don't see their problems. owners, the asset growth companies oversee the problems of business until the business failure hits them badly, right? They tend to interpret this situation as being due to external factors. For you to remember, this COVID-19 cases, more similar to US. He blames others, over optimistic, right? They underrated this matter heavily. Therefore, that until the problems come and hit, right, now they tend to blame others. The similar situation when it comes to company. There are companies like that in SMEs, right? Over optimistic, they don't see problem until the problem comes and hits them badly. This situation occurs, they are over optimistic, still enjoy their previous success, first success, together with they have increased financial leverage or financial expenditure, and then with the financial leverage result in liquidity problem. Owners of this nature ignore issues and pitfalls. Then we have to recognize that is first is that category. Second category, in your consultancy, clients, or maybe you are employer, or maybe the known company, maybe that's your company, you are in which category of this one, how to take care of when it comes to COVID-19 problem. And the third one, apathetic growth companies. Now, this apathetic business, right? So apathetic business, that owners, when it comes to them, that is the culture itself are very lethargic. The downturn of the business start because of apathy of business leaders. Very lethargic, tardiness. They are not ready to change at all. Even if you want to introduce a new technology, they are not ready. They think that's okay the way that they were doing it. They are, passionate about to continue like that. The apathy of business leaders brings a lethargic culture into the business where it is managers are too rigid to change, very difficult to change. You would have met them plenty in your country as well. So in these situations, when it comes to COVID-19, we have to definitely be changed. Right? We have to get a new technology. We have to change our way that we were doing. That is a new normal. For us to convince them new normal, not that easy when it comes to apathetic companies in this matter. Therefore, that particular group of companies also going to a very vulnerable SMEs that COVID-19 will affect them also badly. Next categories, the ambitious growth company. When it comes to this category, this category, give a second. Right. When it comes to these companies, right, they are of course too ambitious. Ambitious that the situations where entrepreneurs are over-optimistic, overestimate their capacity. Now, especially when it comes to these companies, remember that they would have spent a lot of money before COVID-19 for the expansion. They spent a lot on capital expenditure. Now they have created what's called overcapacity. Now there's overcapacity. Now because of COVID-19, that we know very well that their revenue will decline. Sometimes many companies that they will face that problem unless certain industries that they are okay with this COVID-19. So when it comes to revenue and you can't match with the expenditure, over expenditure because the capacity increased even previously, right? They are going to face this problem. So these kind of companies also will face this problem critically because they will not able to cope up with the overheads that they are having right now unless they change it strategically. This one is very interesting. Companies with excessive internal consumption. Now, this is internal consumption is very high. That you and I know very well. We have a nice, beautiful accounting concept called entity concept. These owners do not understand, these SMEs do not understand what is the entity concept. Doesn't matter. So because of that reason, they can't demarcate the business from their personal life. Therefore, business asset, they heavily use for the personal purpose. Even a cash. For them to remain in the society, to maintain the status, ego, they have used the business assets, cash. Therefore, they have already faced that working capital problems and the cash flow problem. Therefore, because of this COVID-19 problem, that particular category of SMEs is also going to face a bigger problem of COVID-19. Why I'm educating on this matter? Because now we are going to find solutions. and we are going to save them. We are going to protect them. That is our role as accountant. Therefore, we must know what kind of a sickness, what kind of a problem, what kind of categories of SMEs that we are dealing with. Right. I'll move to the next one. Let me analyze on this manner. Analyze SMEs through COVID-19. Now, we all know that SMEs are the most vulnerable business sector in COVID-19. No doubt about that. Why? Very easy that we know that. There's a lack of resources, number one. Second was lack of competencies of that. When it comes to lack of resource, especially, that is cash or maybe kind, right? They are lack of that or less cash. It's difficult for them to reinvest money. So they are, by nature, they are having that risk. And also when it comes to competencies, when it comes to soft skills or soft matters comes to play a bigger role here. Now, when it comes, they might not have competent staff sometimes, less competent people, and poor financial literacy. When it comes to SMEs, I have noticed, right? Poor financial literacy. They don't bother about much. Poor networking abilities, lack or the less entrepreneurs' knowledge and experience. So when it comes to them, therefore, SMEs are by nature, naturally, they are vulnerable for this kind of a pandemic crisis. Right. Now, pre-COVID SMEs, still I'm analyzing SMEs, right? Pre-COVID SMEs, I can categorize into two groups, right? I said earlier, trajectories of business, SMEs will fail or business failure occur. And here, SMEs were two categories of SMEs that are pre-COVID-19 SMEs. SMEs were running with chronic diseases. I would like to cut a chronic disease. You know very well that because of COVID-19, if there are chronic diseases of the human people, right, non-communicable diseases, they are more vulnerable, more risky, more dangerous. Similar pattern will apply for SMEs as well. Because as said, COVID-19 is a danger for human being. And because of that reason, business also going to be danger because there's a business failure. In which you must be able to recognize what are these chronic diseases companies. They are more vulnerable than any other people. Thin margin businesses, right? Thin margin businesses, what I can see first, a question like what is a thin margin? Probably below 10, below 15% gross profit margin, right? Now, thin margin businesses, the expenses remain the same, but their revenue is going to decline and they are surviving with their business volume. Therefore, by nature, that's to say, that is a chronic disease that thin margin business will get affected badly. And the next one, continuing cash flow problem. It doesn't mean that every day they have the cash problem, but they couldn't run smooth their business with proper cash inflows. Sometimes, somewhere, they face this problem. That is a nature. So they are be vulnerable for that. Less profit and informalized business processes structured, poor financial discipline that when it comes to, I said you before, when it comes to financial literacy, they don't much bother about the financial discipline, poor financial discipline, no basic internal control, poor record keeping. You can imagine when it comes to situation like that, if a SME, if they want to take a loan from the bank or maybe the financial support from others, if they want to analyze their business, what's going to happen? No data. You can imagine what will be the situation. So this is what the chronic disease is, what I'm telling you. They will get that damage or the impact from COVID-19 so hardly, right? No account records mean poor financial management definitely. And it means that no budgetary controls at all. Those kind of SMEs have to be more careful. And if you're an accountant, you have to give much care for those SMEs to protect. And the next one, SMEs running healthy. Right. If someone say, okay, SMEs are running healthy, they have no problem. Right? It's very beautiful. Yes, I would agree. But remember one thing, SMEs running healthy, no cash flow problem, healthy profit margins and formalized businesses, they do regular business reviews as well. True, right? They somehow recover their business from this COVID-19. They have all these SMEs, what I'm talking about, they have all resources and the competencies. But remember, they take long time to recover. They take long time to recover. Why? They go with the system. They are systematic. That is like a formalized economies like developed countries. The formalized economies, now this COVID-19, impact is a bit of high than informalized economies. To take the decision, right, they can't just take it like that. they got used to a certain pattern of doing things. It is like a system. It works one chain, or in the chain, it's one part doesn't work, entire system does not it disturbed. But when it comes to informalized economies, informalized business, it doesn't, right? It's maybe a one-man show. He can take a decision. They still live with basics. They can quickly recover, right? Quickly can take decisions, quickly can move, etc. Therefore, when it comes to recovery of this business, SMEs with these chronic diseases, informalized businesses may recover if they apply right strategies sooner than healthy businesses. Healthy business definitely will recover, but take a little more time than other SMEs. Right, I'm going back to the first slide, that our responsibility, that is our role. Why we should be. Now, I just analyzed within the time that I have to present. I tried my best to summarize everything, all right? So here I'm now taking ourselves to our responsibility. When it comes to our responsibility, our role, we should be in the front line like medical doctors when it comes to this pandemic. This is after 100 years, right? So we're at the forefront. Now, what do you mean by in the front line, forefront? Our knowledge, we should be knowledgeable than your employer and the client, right? Our knowledge should definitely, knowledge is more than the employer and the client. That is very, very important. We should be knowledgeable than others. Need to use our technical knowledge to analyze the scenarios to face the crisis. Remember that. Now, even medical professionals, right? They can't exactly say when this problem is going to be over. And some people say the vaccine will come in this August, some will say next summer in April. It is unpredictable. Some people argue it's very difficult to find it. Likewise, it's very difficult even for them to say what exactly, or at least to some with a margin of error 5-10%, they can't say like that. In that situation, what we have to do, even to run our organization, get some particular scenarios into consideration, right? Maybe that vaccine is discovered by them on December or January, etc., or no vaccine. If that is the case, our projection has to be in those pillars and the columns, have to be prepared. And then the projection, then we can easily shift from one to another if that particular bad scenario will occur. So we can keep our businesses ready for the situation which is uncontrollable in one day. So that is our readiness. That's what I say, scenario analysis with the technical knowledge that we have to do at the time, right? Need to use our soft power. Accountants, we have soft power. This is the right time for us to use this soft power. So what is the soft power? What I mean here? Our analytical abilities, our logical thinking abilities, accounting and math abilities, and networking abilities to influence the people. So these abilities we have learned it from our examination system. To be a CA is not that easy though. And we went through so much of experience, right? Even right now we face different kind of experience. We have met several personalities. So we have gathered so much of power. Now we have to use them to influence people. See that you have a consulting client, right? For you to help them to get a bank loan, your power has to be used. If you are an employee working for an employer, you are an entrepreneurial employee should be. The entrepreneurial employee should be able to convince the employer, your boss, look here, sir, through my statistics, through my knowledge, it calculation, maths, everything, maybe modeling. Do it and show, look here, sir, this is what's going to happen for the business. Then he say, wow, is it the case? Then you can get the attention and you can give the direction so that you gain the respect and the power. That's what I meant is soft power. This is the right time to use the soft power because of this is a crisis coming after 100 years. And ready to lead the organization. No one else other than accountants, no, right? Accountants have to take that lead now, right? So we have to give the use that analytical power. We show them that we can do it. They know that we gain respect. Definitely direction, it comes to our head. Employer and client will get your direction. They know that this is a pandemic, this is a crisis. If that is not cured or protected properly, my business will fall. That is a business failure. Therefore, definitely you can convince them. Right. So why I'm telling we are the resilient? So we have to be resilient. Why? Need to show them the path on the resilience, and let's actively involve on resilience. So we know that, I said you before, right, in that previous slide. So that is our power. So then we have to help the resilience. And also put the people first when it comes to crisis like this. Whether you are CFO, whether you are CEO, whether you are accountant, doesn't matter. This is a pandemic. This is a virus, infectious, contagious. So if the CFO got affected, if a CEO got affected, if your key employees got affected, what else we can do with that? So put the people first in your planning, right? Put the people first. Their safety, their protection is number one. They have to be connected with people, other people as well, right? Stakeholders, especially. So that is very important. And be proactive. Don't wait until ease the economy. Don't wait until unlock down. Get ready, prepare, do your projection, do your cash planning. Get ready. Don't wait until start the business. Projection, cash planning, and budgets are essential. Then the be positive. Be connect with positive people always, and things as well. Understand your purpose to be positive. Because why? Purpose to be positive. We are accountant. We have a bigger role, similar to medical professionals, to save our business, to protect our business. That is in our hand. Right. Now, with all that, I'm telling we are responsible if there's a business failure, that you are related with that company in whatever the form, right? So we are responsible. Thus, we are responsible to take the business back to the new normal and save the business. So if we are responsible, what it should be post-COVID SME's behavior, right? So now a well-planned SME ahead in your hand. You analyze everything. Risk matters has been properly, critically taken into consideration. As I said, business failure has been recognized in advance. Now, business failure risk is reducing. Otherwise, it would have been 10 times the factor matter concern, 10 times riskier, or maybe 20 times riskier of failing your business. Because of our intervention, the risk, failing risk, has tremendously reduced. In this situation, after everything, post-COVID-19 situation, just before started maybe, affected areas were recognized and assessed. Not only just projections by looking at a book, each and every business area of that one. For example, if I forget it before that, I'll tell. Now, when it comes to sometimes when it comes to crisis, there should be crisis management style. Leaders should have that ability to manage the crisis. If there's no crisis management skilled person, CEOs of the company, best thing is to form a committee, risk management committee or crisis management committee. You can put any name to manage or to mitigate the risk. Right. I'll go forward with this one. I said that areas to be recognized, affected areas, damaged areas, those to be asset, the value. And then new technologies were introduced. If you analyze your SME, your business properly, you know that you need to grab technologies. What Indian president said very nicely, right? They have done a quite interesting 8-9 areas, very interesting. So they have done it. They introduced a technology. That is what it is. Simple examples of work on cloud for work for home. At least that technology, your accountant team can't work at all. They're at home. People will say work from home, but they don't work. Why? Those are in the computers. So at least use a cloud. Get access to your systems. Convince your employer through your power. This is what it requires in future. This will continue maybe 1 year, 2 years. Doesn't matter. Let continue COVID-19. We'll change ourselves to save our business, be entrepreneurial people. And then fresh finance and loan deferment was applied. Probably government would have given that facility by now, right? Fresh finance, loan deferment was applied. It had to be applied before starting. And projections were made. Don't worry. This is a post-COVID situation of projections were made, right? We know projections is not one single statement, maybe on scenario based, 3 projections quickly for you to shift from one to another because or no one say exactly what is, they can't predict it. So therefore, we also helpless. We take into a few scenarios and do the projection. That is my suggestion or proposal. Then the cash flow planning was done. Yeah.
Can you summarize?
Yeah, cash flow planning was done, and then budgetary controls are in place, put the business into survival mode and run. So when it comes to this situation, right, your SMS is protected from business failure, and going forward, evolving and thrive SMEs definitely by us. So I'll finish my session in this way. If you want, you can contact me with these details, right? And thank you for the Institute of Chartered Accountants Nepal and Krishna and others and other panelists and the presenter. Thank you so much. Okay, Krishna, this is to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Chamara, for your comprehensive presentations, especially dedicated to the professional role in SMEs. Thank you very much. And before moving to another panelist, I would like to take up one questions that is relating to President ICAW. If the going concern issues is pervasive in every aspect of the economy, would it be justifiable to evaluate this concept on the form level only? Yes, President ICAW, if you are there. Are you there?
I think she left. Fiona left. She left a message that she got another conference to attend.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So now I would like to invite Eileen Hong, Executive Director of CAPA, for her presentations on COVID-19 impact, challenges facing professional accountant in Asia Pacific. Ms. Eileen.
Thank you, President Krishna Prasad, and also to all the ICAN leadership for having us. Also greetings to all my fellow panelists, as well as to the audience. I wish I could see their faces, you know, but this is the new way of doing things. Without further ado, I am going to try screen and hopefully it comes out and I am able to share from the screen. So I hope you can see the screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, thank you everyone. For the benefit of those who may not know CAPA, just let me, give me a few minutes to indulge into what CAPA is. CAPA is actually the Confederation of Asian and Pacific Accountants. We were conceived in 1957, long time ago. It is the regional organization that represents the national PAOs, or what we call the professional accountancy organizations in Asia Pacific. Today, our member PAOs represent about 2 million accountants worldwide, which generally translates to about 2/3 of the world's accountant. So now back to the topic of the webinar today. Effectively, we were talking about changes and the need to change and all that. But if you take a step back, the profession is already facing a wave of rapid change now, even before COVID. And significant change is expected. And some of the key drivers, as I've listed up there, has already been listed. And these are, some things are called like technological impact, market needs, innovation, new business models, and even expectations of the younger generation. So what has happened with COVID? It is generally just accelerated everything. Now, to understand, what the topic of today and, what the future of the profession holds, in fact, before, this webinar was arranged, we decided to do a survey. CAPA decided to survey all its members. And I'm very proud to say you are the first group that we're sharing this with, because this is really hot off the oven. Well, we did share with our board of directors last night, but you are the first external group. The only thing I would ask of you is to bear with us, because this is work in progress. The information is still coming in, But we are confident to share this because 20 out of the 33 PAOs that are part of our membership have actually responded. So that is 60% response rate, which is a very healthy response rate. And we really wanted to share with you the findings of what the profession, the leaders in Asia Pacific believes are the current challenges, and what are the possible silver lining of, lying ahead of the COVID curve. Now, 4 summary observations have actually emerged, through the responses that came up. The first one, unsurprisingly, the majority of the profession right now is operating under lockdown orders. So there are challenges because of that. Now, of course, when we actually distilled the challenges, we found that the challenges faced are actually relatively common across all jurisdictions. Unsurprisingly, of course, most efforts of the profession is to focus on short-term emergencies, what we call weathering the storm. And of course, there is an awareness of the need for longer-term planning, preparing for the future, but there's just so much uncertainties ahead. Now, if we were to dive deeper into the challenges that emerge, the need to weather the storm has actually caused the profession to be more reactive, which is great, and actually go into survival mode. It is no wonder, for most businesses, most of the people in our profession, it is to ensure the continuity of business operations. And so that was the first challenge that emerged. And, and it's really top on everyone's mind, as is the ability, to navigate and withstand market and industry volatility. And because for most of us, the lockdown happened so suddenly, I don't know about you, but in Malaysia, where I come from, we have 1 day notice, and that was it. I believe Nepal, or maybe the rest of the world, that the panelist represents would be better. But generally, we had very little notice, and we have all got to pivot to a virtual environment. Now, when you pivot to a virtual environment, it actually exposes some technology gaps, and a lot of focus had to go into addressing those gaps, especially between capabilities of your workforce and the infrastructure that you have versus the operations that you need to now deliver. So, but of course, looking at these challenges, you would say that it's probably true for everyone, not just the accounting profession. This is correct for everybody as well. So what are the most specific challenges to the profession? And these are the top 3 that came up. One, of course, was having to meet reporting and regulatory requirements. That was very clear. Definitely, we are still professionals. Whatever the situation, whether you're in lockdown, you have to meet deadlines. You have to deliver on quality. Of course, the next thing that came up was very much the implications that arose, in terms of accounting and disclosure implications that came out because of COVID. So in certain circumstances, in some examples, there was an immediate impact, to the valuation of assets in financial statements amounting to billions, or if even smaller, it could really wipe out the businesses, the SMEs. And of course, one thing that really came up as well was the need to immediately move to doing remote audit work. There was a lack of access to clients' accounts, clients' books, clients' records, and this was a significant. It was of great concern to those who were in audit, whether this was financial audit or whether this was cost audit. Now, when we asked for a view of what do you think were the longer term challenges because of COVID, it was very clear that, this is going to be a new normal, a whole era that is different. There were a lot of uncertainties. It's kind of like looking at a crystal ball, but clearly the things that we need to do was very much to first prioritize and build competences in a digital-based environment. because of this environment, what came up, of course, was that there is a whole new risk profile. There is a need to address risk, especially cybersecurity, that came up because of this digital environment. The majority of us now have to manage in a global economic recession. And I think I referred to Fiona, president of the ICAW, where she said, that it is much worse, the recession and the economic conditions is much worse than the financial crisis that happened before. So effectively, all of us are facing the challenges of closures of business, unemployment, meeting debt obligations, cash flow crunch. So this is the environment that we all have to be in. Of course, what this translates to is that the accountant will now have even greater roles. There are new emerging roles. So what does this new role look like? Now, is it all gloomy? And I think one of the things that we find emerging, from these murky waters are that there are possible silver linings. One of the key silver lining was that there is an immediate drive towards innovation. We found that a lot of SMPs or even the profession are saying that they have new service offerings that they can offer, whether this relates to things like addressing information gaps, because there's a need to synthesize new regulations to address our clients' needs, or whether things like reasonable assurance engagements, where there is a need to do due diligence, on forecast assumptions for restructuring of debts. So that is the exciting part of it. And this actually leads to an increased spotlight on the profession, which, in the past few decades has been suffering a little from reputation risk. And what is it we see coming, or we hope to see coming, is the increased relevance in the value of the profession when the spotlight comes, because you are there to engage. There will be a greater call for accountability, transparency, especially when there's all this using taxpayers' funds in terms of the stimulus packages. This is where the accountants come in, and this is where the profession can really shine. The third silver lining, of course, is there's always been a need to move towards digital. Now it's just accelerated, and there's just a need to move towards digital transformation. And last but not least, on the silver lining, as the world comes to a pause, I think what we've all seen, and there have been reports, in the news, that Mother Earth seems to be thriving. Nature seems to be thriving. There is a reduction in carbon footprints. The air is cleaner. So in that sense, inevitably or inadvertently, what has happened at the site is that we are actually helping to support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We're actually now playing a role in sustainability. So I will leave you with this last slide. Yes, there's a lot of uncertainties. We don't know what is going to happen, but I think what is certain is change is coming, and that is inevitable. Change has remained unchanged. The rapid change is unchanged. But what we need, as this picture suggests, is we need to be agile. We need to be flexible. We need to be innovative. But most of all, we need to collaborate in order, to get the fruits, to get that apple. So I will leave that thought with you. In order to be future ready, the profession needs to now move into this new evolution. And, I wish you all the best, and, stay safe. And if you wish to contact me or anything, those are our details. I will pass this time back to our dear President Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alin Hung, Executive Director, for your comprehensive presentation. Now, I would like to request Mr. Ram Subramaniam, Policy Advisor of CPA Australia, for your presentation. Mr. Ram Subramaniam.
Thank you, Mr. Acharya. I'm just going to try and share my slides, so hopefully I will navigate that successfully. Can you see my slides?
Yeah, we can see your slide.
Okay, perfect. Okay, greetings everyone. Thank you to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nepal for organizing this webinar during one of the greatest challenges we are facing globally and putting together a panel of eminent speakers from across the globe. There's no question that the economic impact of COVID-19 is severe and is likely to be severe for some time to come. The real challenge for accountants involved in financial reporting, which is the subject I'm going to cover today, is to come up with a valid and justifiable financial representation of future economic impacts in financial reports that are going to be prepared this year, most likely next year, and possibly in some of the following years as well. There will be a number of questions that will be weighing heavily on those preparing financial reports. How severe is the medium to long-term impact going to be? How well are we going to be able to predict it? And how are we going to successfully mitigate against adverse effects? And of course, the biggest challenge of all, how do we represent these considerations in financial reports? In many ways, the current crisis has turned the world upside down. Making effective estimates and assumptions based on future economic activities will be immensely challenging and stretch our capabilities as professionals. But then, gone are the days of accountants being mere number crunchers who process ledger entries on a daily basis. All that is automated now. We are expected to be truly high-functioning professionals who apply our skills and expertise in making professional judgments about the information that is available to us and turn this into relevant, reliable information that faithfully represents the underlying economic activities. So let's look at some of the challenges and considerations for corporate reporting in the future as we gradually move through the crisis. So what will investors and other users of financial reports be looking for as we come out of this crisis? Let's first look at the issue of assessing whether a company is a going concern. I think quite a few of the panelists have already talked a little bit about this subject. I'll talk a little bit more about it in a financial reporting context. This will be a very fundamental consideration that users will be interested in. Is the company a going concern? Will it be able to continue to operate into the foreseeable future, which is at least 12 months from the reporting period end? Preparers will have to take a number of factors into consideration when undertaking going concern assessment. This could include temporary, or in some cases, even a permanent shutdown of some operations. Temporary shutdowns could have been government imposed, and they may be reversed once the restrictions are lifted. However, in the longer term, an economic downturn could lead to, unfortunately, permanent shutdowns of some operations as well. As an example, it was announced this morning in the Australian media that Target, which is a big department store chain here in Australia, is going to shut up to 75 out of its 280 stores in Australia. Now, Target itself is owned by another company called Wesfarmers, which owns numerous other retail chains that operate in Australia. The closure of a significant number of stores will just be one indicator in going concern considerations. Reduced demand for goods and services due to an economic downturn could be another consideration. Continuing ability to access finance to fund the operations could be a consideration as well. Debtors facing financial difficulties themselves could result in non-payment of debts that may form a significant portion of a company's asset base. Supply chain interruptions have been common due to the closure of manufacturing outfits and the shutdown of international borders. This could also be a significant issue. Of course, I haven't covered all the issues that are going to be likely indicators when assessing going concern, but these are some examples of what those issues might be. Now, in the most extreme cases, the going concern basis may not be an appropriate basis for preparation of financial reports. Now, here I'm talking about the preparation of financial reports in the context of IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. And IFRS does not provide any requirements or guidance on what an alternative basis could be if the going concern basis does not apply. So if a company does have to prepare financial reports on a basis other than the going concern basis, some careful consideration needs to be given as to what this alternative basis is going to be. For example, a liquidation basis may need to be considered, where all assets and liabilities are presented on the basis that they will be sold or settled on the basis of the company being liquidated. It's probably appropriate for a company that is not using the going concern basis to still refer to accounting standards in measuring and presenting its assets and liabilities on an alternative basis like the liquidity basis. The next thing users are likely to be interested in is the company's solvency. Although there are a number of similarities between the company's status as a going concern and its status of solvency, they are not quite the same. In Australia, for example, a company is considered solvent if it is able to continue to pay its debts as and when they become due and payable. An entity may be able to pay its existing debts as and when they fall due, as they have access to finance, perhaps. But the company may not be able to establish that it is a going concern, for example, maybe because of a forced shutdown of its operations due to the current crisis. The requirements for solvency are enshrined in company law in Australia, and other countries have similar requirements in company law too. In Australia, a company is not only required to make a going concern assessment, the directors of the company are also required to make a declaration of solvency under company law. And it's quite possible other countries have similar requirements as well. Now, another aspect of financials that users are likely to be interested in is the liquidity of a company. Now, if we look at the objective and scope of financial statements under IFRS, the objective of financial statements is to provide financial information about the reporting entity's assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses that is useful to users of financial statements in assessing the prospects of future net cash inflows to the reporting entity and in assessing management's stewardship of the entity's economic resources. So obviously cash flows are a critical part of assessing whether a company is a viable proposition, and liquidity is the term I'm using here to reflect that particular issue. Of course, it goes without saying that investors are going to be interested in profits, and companies have to give some consideration about how this figure is accurately reflective of current circumstances. I will be covering the role of non-GAAP metrics in a couple of slides that looks at some considerations around presenting the profit or earnings figures in financials. Last but not least, users are going to be interested in not just the numbers and disclosures in the financial statements, but also in the other narrative and non-financial numbers that are presented in other parts of the director's report, such as management commentary, etc. Making forward-looking assessments and estimates when preparing financial statements and providing other corporate reports is particularly difficult currently, and there will be a need for narrative reporting to provide forward-looking information that is specific to the entity and provides insights into the board's assessment of business viability and methods and assumptions underlying that assessment. Moving on to the next slide, let's look at some of the high-level aspects of financial reporting that will need attention in a post-COVID world. Hopefully, we will come out of this crisis at some point. So some of this information is probably going to be relevant in the context of financial reporting as we move forward. So there's no question that capital markets around the globe are going through some significant turbulence currently, and confidence in the markets is absolutely essential at a time like this. The reporting of timely information will be one of the critical factors in ensuring ongoing confidence in the markets. Such timely information is not just limited to annual financial reports either. There are numerous other formal and informal channels of communication that companies are required to use or do so voluntarily to inform markets on key developments in their operations and strategies. Interim financials, ongoing disclosures to stock exchanges of significant developments, preliminary results, announcements, etc., will play a critical role in keeping markets informed. Heavy reliance is based on estimates and judgments in determining the information that is presented in IFRS-based financial statements. As you know, IFRS standards are a principles-based reporting framework, and with any principles-based set of standards, there will be a need to exercise judgment in interpreting and applying those requirements. We already discussed some of those assessments associated with going concern, and similar considerations will be necessary around fair value calculations, discount rates for various calculations such as impairment of financial and non-financial assets, estimates around future cash flows, etc. Materiality is another big issue. What are the material items arising from COVID-19 that need to be presented and or disclosed in financial statements? Well, this will require a huge judgment call from preparers. Let's look at the target stores example that I mentioned earlier. 75 out of 280 stores are being closed down. You might argue that's material, right? But then the company that owns Target also owns numerous other retail chains. On the other hand, it is reported that around 1,300 people are going to lose their jobs as a result of the store closures. I don't obviously have the answer to the question of whether the closure of 75 stores is material or not. On the face of it, it probably is material, but the question of materiality will not just be based on the financial effect. The qualitative aspects like the loss of 1,300 jobs will all probably have to be taken into account too. One of the most important tools available to preparers of financial statements in dealing with the impact of COVID-19 on the financials is disclosures. I think Elaine Hong mentioned that in her presentation as well. The use of disclosures in the notes and in other places like management commentary will be very important in informing the users of the impact of COVID-19 on the company's current and future prospects. As trained specialists, we often get too technical with our language. Sometimes companies may do this inadvertently. Other times it can be on purpose to hide important information in jargon. At a time like this, it's more critical than any other time to provide information that is couched in very simple terms so that readers can get a good understanding of the impact of COVID-19 on the financials. And finally, goes without saying, documentation is essential to support the estimates and assessments that have been made. Documenting the key judgments made and coming up with the various numbers will be critical not only for audit purposes, but also for management's own decision-making in the near future. Okay, let's look at some specific financial reporting considerations that are likely to arise in the context of COVID-19. Many regulators around the world have provided blanket extensions for financial report lodgement. In Australia, for example, most companies have a June year-end, and the corporate regulator here, the Australian Securities and Investments Commission, has given a 1-month blanket extension for lodgement of financial reports by all companies they regulate. This will include both listed and non-listed companies. Listed companies normally have 3 months to lodge their financials, and now they'll have 4 months. Similarly, non-listed companies normally have 4 months for their year-end, after their year-end to lodge financials, but now they'll have 5 months. Some relief has been provided to allow for AGMs to be held online as well. Of course, when companies are focused on survival during these difficult times, such extensions are very well received, but a word of warning. As I mentioned earlier, it's important to remember that markets are looking for timely information, and any delays in publishing important financial information could have a negative impact on market confidence. Another issue to consider is the extended post-balance sheet event period, which will be relevant both for preparers and for auditors. Assuming a company makes use of the deadline extension and finalizes its financial reports later than usual, it will have to consider the impact of any post-balance sheet events over this longer period. Similarly, auditors will also have to potentially spend more time and effort in considering a longer post-balance sheet event period. I'm going to quickly touch on a couple of issues that might arise in accounting terms out of government stimulus packages and how to account for this. So one of the examples is around the question of revenue. For example, in Australia, the government is paying eligible companies around $1,500 per fortnight per employee during a 6-month period to help such companies ride out the crisis. This is for eligible companies. Such amounts can be material for companies that have thousands of employees. Should this amount be treated as additional revenue akin to a government contract, or should it be offset against the employee expense? If we consider such amounts received to be a government grant, treating the amount received as a revenue item or offsetting against the employee expense are both possible under IAS 20, accounting for government grants. Another major area that probably is worth mentioning is in relation to leases. Under IFRS 16, the accounting for rent concessions has been considered at the IASB. Now, what's the issue here, you might ask? Well, under IFRS 16, the accounting for rent concessions may or not meet the definition of a lease modification. The accounting will differ depending on whether such rent concessions are treated as lease modifications or not. And if the rent concession is a lease modification under IFRS 16, the company will have to recalculate its right of use asset and lease liability. However, if the rent concession is not considered a lease modification, then those rent concessions will be taken to be variable lease payments that are taken directly to the income statement. Of course, it's worth noting that this will be a credit to the income statement and not a debit. As I said earlier, the IASB is giving consideration to this issue of rent concessions, and it has recently decided to issue an exemption that will allow all rent concessions to be treated as variable lease payments only, which will be taken directly to the income statement. This is practical relief that is very welcome, and we are expecting an amendment to IFRS 16 to be issued sometime next week. The relief is expected to apply to any rent concessions up to the period to 30th of June 2021. I mentioned earlier non-GAAP information. And non-GAAP information is frequently used by companies to tell their own story of financial performance. Although the use of such non-GAAP metrics is common practice, inappropriate use of non-GAAP measures can sometimes be misleading. Most of us would have come across EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxation, depreciation, and amortization, a non-GAAP metric that is commonly used by financial report preparers. We are now coming across companies looking to present a new metric, EBITDA-C. The C, of course, stands for coronavirus. One big question that comes up when you look at this new non-GAAP number, is it really possible for a company to separate out the financial information on its income statement that have arisen due to coronavirus? Hypothetically, it's possible, I suppose, but I really question the practicalities of getting a true EBITDA-C number. The other approach some companies are appearing to be considering is to split their income statement into two parts, a pre-COVID and a post-COVID set of results. Once again, can a cutoff be correctly identified and achieved? Presenting a split of profit or loss between pre-COVID and post-COVID periods can be potentially misleading due to a number of problems, which could include the cutoff points for the pre and post-COVID periods may not be clearly identifiable. The pre-COVID period may not be representative of future performance. The impact of COVID is unlikely to be the only factor contributing to changes between the pre and post-COVID results. The effect of COVID-19 are unlikely to be constant or uniform in the post-COVID-19 period. So these are just few factors that may need to be considered if some company is trying to consider a split between pre and post-COVID periods. In some cases, it may be possible to quantify and disclose in the notes to the financial statements specific types of transactions as significant items arising due to the COVID-19 pandemic. One example could be restructuring costs that are solely attributable to COVID-19. However, treating all ongoing operating costs as a significant item during a period of reduced revenue would be inappropriate. Where an item is described as COVID-19 related and disclosed separately, some additional disclosures would be advisable as to why such an identified item is solely COVID-19 related. Moving on very quickly to a few other issues that are relating to financial reporting. Depreciation. Will it still be needed for assets which are not used during the pandemic? As I mentioned earlier, stores are being shut down. We know that many airlines have grounded their aircraft. What about depreciation of such assets? Well, the answer is it depends. If the depreciation policy that is being adopted is straight line, the company will have to continue to depreciate the asset as it normally does. That would be a requirement under IAS 16. But if it's using a unit of production method, depreciation could be zero because there is no production. Some companies may be thinking, can the depreciation method be changed? Well, an entity must choose a depreciation method that closely reflects the pattern of consumption of the economic benefits of the underlying asset. So there may be no case for a change in the method of depreciation. Quickly covering a few other areas, financial assets and fair value measurement considerations. Level 1 or level 2 fair values under IFRS 13 based on quoted price or significant observable inputs would be based on the observable price in the market, so arguably the easiest case for establishing fair values of financial assets. Level 3 is a bit more tricky, unquoted shares, etc. So income from such assets is likely to be much more uncertain during these times, and preparers of financial statements may need to consider alternative scenarios in coming up with a suitable valuation technique, including the calculation of the discount rate. Of course, under IFRS 9, the expected credit loss model should be applied in determining whether financial assets are impaired. And this is going to be an important factor in the financial services sector, in the banking sector. In these challenging circumstances, the impairment calculations become extremely important. The International Accounting Standards Board, the IASB, has published guidance on the application of the expected credit loss model in the context of the coronavirus crisis. And I suggest those of you interested in the topic to have a read of that guidance document. Provisions and contingencies is another major area. And I would probably just pick up on one issue under this particular standard, IAS 37, onerous contracts. And there may be situations where provisions may need to be made for certain contracts which are considered onerous in the current climate. For example, a sales contract may become onerous if costs rise above the expected economic benefits from that contract. This could be because the company needs to stop production, find an alternative supplier, or hire additional employees. A sales contract may also become onerous if the benefits are expected to be lower. For example, because of a fall in demand that affects the revenue generating capacity of that contract over its term. I've already covered post-balance sheet events previously, so I won't go over it again. Very quickly, the role of auditors, valuers, and other experts is going to be vital in the financial reporting process. In many cases, auditors are exploring how to conduct remote audits, and we heard about that from the president of the Indian Institute, and this brings about its own challenges. I probably will stop there And thank you very much. Obviously, I can't cover everything that is going to be relevant in the context of financial reporting, but I hope I have picked up on some of the major issues that are going to be relevant in this context. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ram Subramaniam, for your comprehensive presentations about the role of professional accountant in financial reporting post-COVID-19 pandemic. So now I would like to request CA Mahaprasad Adhikari is a governor of Nepal Rashtra Bank, the Central Bank of Nepal, to present the monetary and financial sector intervention against the COVID-19 pandemic. Mahaprasad Adhikari, sir. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Institute of Chartered Accountants, Nepal, Excellency President ICAN, Excellency President Safa, Excellency President Chartered Accountant of Australia and New Zealand, and also all distinguished speakers in this very important forum. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm it's an honor to speak in this forum, which is one of the world's one of the most reputed professional service provider. Let me take this opportunity to thank Council and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nepal for hosting this event and bringing all eminent personalities together on board and sharing their thoughts, very valuable thoughts, at this occasion. All speaker for your valuable thoughts here, which are very pertinent and very much helpful and fruitful even in our context. As we unprecedented challenges to human beings, governments, business society all over the world. This has demanded a huge active role from every corner of the society and tackle the evolving issue of crisis management earlier, and also the business continuity related issue. Business continuity is one of the critical issue in the time when everywhere is locked down, where the business services and essential services need to be provided, that too regulator like us vigilant on continuity of our again is another important element. Accounting community, as we heard earlier also, has to play an exceptional role on reframing the business model for every individual businesses in such situation to sustain their business for the future. At the same time, the umbrella fact or institutes or regional body had to have engaged on reframing their relevant implementation of their relevant standards and addressing and consideration on several new issues brought up by the crisis. so that the economy can be pushed further in the normal. Crisis, so that the economy can be pushed for the greatest economic slump contracted by around 3% in 2020. With around 154 countries, economies will facing a contraction in our has now been extended till June 2nd. All commercial flights, both domestic and international, have also been suspended. Because of the containment measure adopted to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, economic activities fundamentals were also very much sound and stable. However, due to COVID effect, our growth is estimated to be grow only by 2.3% in 2019 and 20. Let me quickly touch upon some of the underlying challenges as emerged in contact tracing. Sufficiently equipped with COVID-19 testing kits. Similarly, protective gear for health professionals, emergency medical equipments and medicines. International and domestic labor market is contracted, whereby they want to come back to must hit it. As per the preliminary estimate of the Nepal Rashtra Bank, loss in our economy in 1920 will be around 4.3% of our GDP. Tourism inflow has hit April 2020. Domestic tourism activities also have been severely affected. As a consequence of this, airline industry is facing significant losses in revenue. It has affected around 700,000 workers in hotel and transport sector. The current crisis has affected more than 4.4 million workers in the informal sector as well. Remittance inflow, one of the backbone of the current economy, has been declined by 4% in the first 9 months of the current fiscal year. It will be expected to fall further. Decline in remittance has affected the deposit of bank and financial institution and demand into the house. Jobs and decline in remittances are likely to push a significant percentage of households below poverty line. Almost 56% of the households in Nepal receive term impact as well after the lockdown gets lifted. Even after the lockdown getting lifted, life returns to normal. Enterprises could find themselves in the verge of bankruptcy due to the crisis created by COVID-19. Some may face difficulty in revival due to depressed demand as well as lack of working capital. Tourism sector, including hotel and restaurant sector, are going to face problem for next 1 to 2 years. A significant investment was made in this sector in expectation of visit Nepal year 2020. International travel does not seem to rebound quickly, even if the pandemic is over. The business relying on imported goods, raw materials will also return and have totally disrupted. Major construction work, including national pride projects, are now delayed, which is going to increase their cost, and viability could also be questionable in some cases. The government will face increasing difficulty in financing these projects as the resource mobilization from the taxes and foreign loan will be under pressure until the economy fully recovers. A significant number of Nepalese workers are returning from the foreign employment. Given the outlook of the global economy, demand for foreign employment is not likely to increase much. New employment around 25% of our GDP are crucial for external stability as well, as well as for the domestic demand. International remittances flow have been projected to decline by around 20% during this year. Decline in remittances and FDI could create pressure in the BOP position. Releasing the liquidity into the financial market is key instrument normally followed by every monetary authority in its crisis. Nepal Rashtra Bank, being a monetary authority, has taken various monetary measures to ease the cost monetary measure into the Nepalese market, financial market. Similarly, the bank rate is also reduced. Interest rate corridor related ceiling, that the rate is also reduced. Similarly, considering the prevailing spread into the bank and financial institution, NRB, Central Bank has directed to provide a 2 percentage point reduction on the last quarter interest rate to this, and on the regulatory and supervisory through the supervisory measure. Normally, deferment of the interest and installment payments, credit moratorium, release of the capital buffer, interest capitalization, credit enhancement, credit restructuring and rescheduling are some of the measures normally applied by the for provision for maintaining counter-cyclical buffer as per the capital adequacy framework 2015 has been deferred. Financial system and individual institutions are closely monitored for the effect of COVID. NRB is conducting a study of loan portfolio of individual banks and assessing the possible impact on their balance sheet. A significant amount of loans need to be restructured. The risk profile of the borrower has changed due to the COVID-19 impact. So the bankers need to reassess their assets quality. NRB is working on possible regulatory measure that could provide relief such that it is consistent with the international norms. At the same time, we are concerned that it does not undermine the safety and soundness of the financial system. A task force is also formed to recommend measures related to recognition, measurement, fact, classification, etc., where we have the pleasure and privilege member from even Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nepal and the Accounting Standard Board. Friends, due to the COVID-19, tighter financial conditions are more likely to increase volatility into the money, capital, and real assets market. Hence, can weaken the price as well as challenge the financial stability. Financial stability requires maintaining an adequate supply of credit to households and firms to reduce the risk of fire sales. Being a central bank of Nepal, Nepal Rashtra Bank is committed to provide substantial liquidity for a smooth functioning of the market, along with smooth operation of payment system and foreign exchange market, so that business is sustained and once the lockdown is over, business can be recovered and can start their operation. NRB will closely monitor interbank and intraday short-term rates, volume of interbank transaction, volume of standing liquidity facility operation, volume of refinance, etc. NRB is committed to take appropriate regulatory and supervisory responses measure that can maintain balance between preserving financial stability and sustaining our economic activities. Relaxing minimum standards can jeopardize the objectives. Priority sector remains a key sector for accelerating the employment demands. Earlier speaker has also mentioned concentrating on SMEs, etc., and that are more important to make the economy more resilient. A continuous communication and consultation is essential to ensure business continuity and take appropriate measure to avoid any undesired shock into the system. I realize that the accounting profession has an exceptional role today to guide, to reframe the modality of every problem institution, and will be able to surmount the challenges in the best interest of our community, best interest of our business community, economy, and ordinary citizen. With this, finally, let me once again congratulate the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nepal, its council, president, vice president, for organizing this webinar successfully. I also would like to thank distinguished speaker for their valuable thoughts, which are very much helpful and fruitful in our context. I do fully agree with your all thoughts and sharing their global experience and ideas to Nepalese community. Thank you. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you, CA Mahaprasad Adhikari, sir, Governor of Central Bank of Nepal, Nepal Rashtra Bank. It's a very insightful and very comprehensive presentations regarding the central bank role, especially financial sector and monetary interventions to fight against the COVID pandemic, especially in economic impact. So thank you very much, Sir, once again. Now we are almost end of the program. Though there are a few questions the participant want to know the answers from the panelists, but due to limited time, I'm not going to take more questions. And now I request our Vice President, CA Madan Krishna Sharma, for concluding remarks and the board for thanks. Yes, CA Madan Krishna Sharma.
Thank you, President. This COVID-19 is an unprecedented global health and economic crisis that has also affected personal and social life of the global population. It will bring an unforeseen changes in the business models, business landscapes, and the environment we will have to operate in the coming days. Some of the flourishing businesses may disappear, and the businesses that were believed to be never feasible would come into the forefront. We don't know. Government priorities, especially the globalization versus domestic market reliance, may change. Similarly, economic priorities will change, and business and service sector priorities will change and will reshape. Investors, financiers, market players, and consumers' behaviors will be modified and adjusted. All this will have direct and indirect impact on professional accountants' role and the society's expectation of the services of our profession. This situation poses lots of challenges to the professional accountants to remain relevant as an important part of the economic system. At the same time, also it provides opportunities to shape our services and businesses to guide the coming scenarios to the benefit of all stakeholders. This requires us to be creative and maintain and reshape our professional competency. This will always need a very agile and alert requirement from us. And this webinar has provided an opportunity to listen our international and global authorities of our profession in one forum, sitting in one place for 3 hours, and before that preparing for this webinar presentation. Our global leaders of our profession have shown their commitment towards addressing the need of the economy that we operate and the global landscape that we operate, as well as guiding our professional fraternity globally. This is a very, very commendable commitments that our professionals globally and professional leaders have shown by giving their valuable time for this webinar. This webinar has definitely helped our members to understand the impact of COVID-19 in different parts of the world, and also have helped to develop our mindset and action that we need to do to remain as a trusted and valuable professionals in the coming days. With this, I would like to thank all the panelists, especially the IFAC President, Dr. Nkijub, who has a global responsibility, but his patience and his guidance and the paternity he has shown to us is unprecedented. It has made us more confident in the days to come. Similarly, the SAFA President, Mr. Ziaul Mustafa, similarly President ICAEW, Fiona Wilkinson, President CAANZ, Mr. Peter Rupp, President ICIA, C. Atul Kumar Gupta ji, Ellen Hong, Executive Director, CAPA, Mr. Ram Subramaniam, Policy Advisor, CP Australia, Mr. Sabir Ahmad, Vice President, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh, Dr. C.A. Chamara Bandara, Consulting Entrepreneur, Sri Lanka, and I cannot forget, and I cannot remain without praising our own professional brother. He is a pride of our profession in Nepal, Mahaprasad Adhikari. He is the governor of the central bank. He used to be in a very other different, very high positions before this. Before that, he was deputy governor. After that, he had a stint in a very highly acclaimed position of the CEO of our investment board of Nepal. Now, he is chosen as a governor recently by the Nepal government, and the whole economy of Nepal has a very high expectation from him, especially in terms of integrity and honesty and putting the economy in the right place. With this, I'd like to thank all the panelists once again, as well as all the participants for giving their 3 hours of time, patiently 3.5 hours actually, sorry for that. And it is a great opportunity for ICAN to be associated with our great panelists globally, as well as our fraternity members who are participating in this webinar, actually utilizing the opportunities provided. One would say that COVID is a curse to our globe for this time, but every bad thing also has a good thing. So it has helped us to be so closer in a short notice without any cost, we can say. So thank you all for being together and helping us to be again more relevant, more agile, and more competent, and in the coming days. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.